Cole, I admit that I forgot to stop by the grocery store on my way to work today and pick up RJ's flowers because RJ texted in on Tuesday saying, don't overlook a Mike Young coached basketball team. And last night, Mike Young brought his Virginia Tech Hokies into Clemson, South Carolina, and they walked out with a dub, and they looked pretty good doing it.
RJ knows ball.
He knows ball.
You got to give it to him.
I mean, he did. You know, people say like, "Oh, don't sleep on this team," or "They might win," without any actual context or reasoning as to why. You just got to make the statement this is going to happen, and if you're proven right, guess what? You're the smartest guy in the room. But RJ does deserve the credit because he was right. Clemson lost. Cole, they looked tired, and they ran into a buzzsaw. It was kind of like wrong place at the wrong time for this Clemson Tigers basketball team. You know, Mike Young's team has been really good all season long. They've lost a couple of biggies lately. I'm talking like big opponents. They lost by 10, 12, 15 points. But earlier in the season, you know, they were losing games to teams like Wake Forest and a couple others by like single possession, like 3 points or less kind of teams, kind of games. And this Virginia Tech team, their record was a little bit misleading as to the type of team that was coming into Clemson last night.
And, you know, Diesel, we talked about this. I mentioned it yesterday. I still thought Clemson would win, but here's what's interesting. Teams were 4-9 coming off of a West Coast trip. Yep. Again, teams were 4-9 coming off of a West Coast trip, and that trend continued last night. We had a guest last week. I can't remember if it was Grayson Mann or Rocco Miller, but one of them talked about that, hey, it's not really the fatigue when you're there out in California, because California, the weather's beautiful. The sun's shining, right? The hair's flowing in the wind, Diesel. But it's on the way back, the trip back, the game after the games in Cali. And whether it's a trend or not, guess what? It definitely is now, because last night teams were 4-9. Make it 4-10. So there's something to it. You can't just say it's a myth now.
Well, imagine the day when North Carolina or Duke loses on that. They'll be out there in the media crying foul, saying this is untenable. We can't have this situation. This league is in a position where it's unfair to have to travel out west.
Thank God Vic Schaefer's in the middle of the country, right? Because if he were on the East Coast or the West Coast and had to travel across the SEC, that Vic Schaefer, he'd be crying.
It'd be a tough day for Vic.
Even Dewey shouts out RJ. So hope RJ's watching or listening. Dewey says, good job, RJ.
You know, Clemson wasn't bad in that game, right? I mean, they scored 33 in the first half, 33 in the second half, consistent, like, you know, a little lesser than what they normally are. They're typically up there in the mid 70s instead of in the mid 60s. But they ran into one heck of a Virginia Tech team. Virginia Tech, Cole, was above its season average in field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, free throw percentage, and in turnovers. So they were really, really good. Their rebounding was down a little bit because their shooting was so good. And by turnovers, I mean turnovers committed on the other team. They went 52% from the field. Their season average is 45. They went 52% from 3-point last night. Their season average was 34. By the way, when you hit 11 3-pointers in a game, there's a good chance you're going to win that game.
Yeah,
because you're just high percentage shots or high value shots. They were 100% from the line. They're typically 73% from the line. And they were just really good across the board. They deserve all the credit for looking good last night.
Clemson missed 5 of their last 6 shots heading into halftime last night. And whatever reason, they just couldn't get into a rhythm. Now, the biggest takeaway that I had to go back home, watch it last night after the fact. And I'll tell you what, man, Virginia Tech just dominated pace of play. People don't talk about how important pace of play is in basketball. It's not like a measurable statistic that you can, go to the box store, go to the box score or the box store if you're purchasing boxes and click pace of play metric, right? It's not there. But I'm telling you, you watched last night's game, Diesel, and it was all about pace of play. Mike Young, you give it to him. Now, Virginia Tech's still a bad team. Like there's no denying that they're still a bad team, and they're probably not making the tournament.
17-8 after that win.
Yeah, 6-6 in the conference.
True.
So a lot of those wins over bad teams. So it's the Virginia Tech team that'll be sitting at home, but nonetheless, it is a good win for Virginia Tech. And I don't know, where do we rank it for Clemson? Is it a bad loss? I don't think it's a great loss. You lost to NC State a couple of weeks ago, right? I thought that was a meh loss. And again, Diesel, I'm not asking Brad Brownell to win every game. I'm not saying, hey, Brad Brownell, you can't have trip-up games because this is the ACC. And, oh, by the way, to RJ's point, Mike Young's a pretty dang good basketball coach. So
that goes
no surprise.
As a quad 2 loss.
Okay.
So, it's not a bad loss.
That's right.
It's not the best loss, but it's not a bad loss. If you lose a quad 1 game, it's not going to hurt you. They're, by the way, they're 4-3 in quad 1 games, 6-2 now in quad 2 games. Here's what's really going to hurt Clemson. This is what's going to cost him in the seeding, Cole, is they didn't look particularly great in some of their quad 3 games. They are 5-0 in that section. They're 5-0 in quad 4 games also. But in some of those, they didn't look great. They didn't look dominant. And that's what they want to see. The committee wants to see dominance when you're playing lesser opponents. Here's Brad Brownell after the game, basically to, who was it, JB on the stream, I think it was, who said that Clemson is doing more with less, and it's caught up with them a few times this season. Here is Brad Brownell basically saying exactly what JB just had to say.
Our defense, I don't think, was very good in the first half. I thought we made some mental errors. We did some things that we usually don't do. And then they capitalized. They made shots. And we had a lot of guys for the first time in a long time not play well. And, just too many different guys not playing well on the same day. And it against a good group like this, when they're playing the way they're playing, we're one of those teams that we need most of our guys to play well.
Yeah, they don't have a dominant force on the team that will consistently go out there and give them 20, 25 points a night. So if RJ Godfrey's playing poorly, if Ace Buckner, and I know he went out of the game for a little while last night, if he's playing poorly, Wallene is playing poorly, then it puts them in a hole where they have a hard time coming back on teams.
Well, I think, Diesel, the conversation that I turn to is, this is kind of what worries you. This is kind of what concerns you if you're a Clemson fan. And we've brought this up several times on the show, right, about Clemson being really good defensively. Their team defense is phenomenal. They guard well. And their bench play all season long, man, their bench play has just been fantastic. But I think last night is a good example of what you and I have mentioned several times on the show, also with guests like Rocco, like Grayson Mann, the simple fact that, hey, when Clemson has Carter Welling, who goes for 19 last night, that's great. That's fine. That's dandy. But guess what? None of the other guys in the starting 5 really stepped up. The bench play was really good last night. Nick Davidson came off the bench with 16 points. Ace Buckner, 16 points. So, again, the bench play's been phenomenal this season. But when you look at the starting 5, what are the starting 5 giving you? Now, I know Nick Davidson and Ace Buckner played more minutes than a guy like Jake Wallen, but still, 0 points from Jake, 6 points from RJ Godfrey, who gave 27 minutes. Justin Porter, Diesel, he played 33 minutes last night.
Ice cold.
He was 5 points, 1 for 8,
cold.
1 for 4 from downtown, right? He didn't rebound the ball. He didn't pass the ball well, 0 assist. And Dylan Hunter, 30 minutes, 1 point. Think about that. Between Porter and Hunter, 63 minutes between the two guards and 6 points.
What happens most of the time when we're looking at their box scores and they're winning games, you see 5 guys that are in double figures in scoring. Well, that's not what they had last night. They just didn't have that. They had Carter Welling step up, like you said, Nick Davidson and Ace Buckner. Outside of that, nobody gave him anything.
Yeah,
6 from RJ and 5 from Justin Porter. And
that's kind of like, again, not like saying hit the panic button right now, but I'm just saying that kind of is the concern that we've said for Clemson. And I'm not saying you have to be sexy night in and night out and go have these guys just taking over games and these ball dominant players who are just going and getting buckets. You can win in different ways in college basketball, but we've said it now so many times that, when this team gets to ACC tournament time and when they get to Saturday, when they get to the tournament, right, they're going to have to be able to rely on guys to go get buckets. And if Carter Welling's the only guy that's consistently doing that, and again, Nick Davidson and Ace Buckner were good last night, and you battled a couple of injuries last night, right? You had a couple of guys banged up. I think one just ended up being a cramp. One was an ankle. But the reality of it is when you get into tournament play, was it yesterday or Tuesday when we asked Rocco Miller about this very thing? I thought his answer was perfect. He said, it depends what your goal is. It depends what your goal is for Clemson. If your goal is to make this deep, deep run, you probably don't have the team DNA to do it. If your goal is to get in the tournament and win a game, I think Clemson can do it. Clemson's been really good in the ACC, not taking anything away. They're 10-2.
Yeah.
But I just watched last night's game, man, and I do have concerns for them in the postseason.
Well, only once this season has Clemson lost back-to-back games. That would be the Alabama and BYU games.
Then they won 9 straight.
And then they won 9 straight. So they do really, really well at coming off of losses and not letting it beat them multiple times. Again, only one time this season have they lost back-to-back games, and 2 of the best opponents they played all season long. Problem is, this time, Cole, you're coming off of this loss, and you got to face Duke on the road at their house at noon. So that's even less time to get your legs back under you. Now, I asked a buddy earlier today. I asked who was it that I texted? Gosh, Grayson, and asked him, how are they traveling up to Durham? How are they getting there? Are they going to be on a bus? He said they'll likely chartered up there, so they'll be there as quickly as possible with more time to lay out and to relax and to get whatever kind of treatment that they need. That's going to be helpful to them, but it's also a noon tip-off, so they're going to have to be up early on Saturday and getting into that rhythm early on Saturday, and who knows if that's going to hold them down.
We'll get to that breaking news out of North Carolina in just a few minutes, Zach. That is big, big news for Tar Heel fans. Not good news, though. What's interesting is, I guess you could spin it and say maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing you're going into Duke refocused, right? Coming off of a loss. You just said they've only lost back-to-back games one time this season. Well, heck, it hadn't happened because they're 20-5, right? They've only lost 5 games all season, which is really, really good. And 2 games in ACC play. So, look, last night's loss and the NC State loss doesn't define the season by any stretch of the imagination. But I guess if you want to spin it well, okay, guess what? Coming off of a loss, refocus. Is Brad Brownell going to lose back-to-back to Virginia Tech and Duke? Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. Philip Moore on Facebook says, what you're feeling is PTSD from the previous season. No, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. But listen.
Does it feel like the collapse is coming?
Well, it's not even a collapse. The only thing that's different, Philip, is that I thought last year's team was more talented and should have made a run, win a game or 2 in the tournament. I just don't. I don't know that this is a tournament team. Let me rephrase that. They're a tournament team. They're going to make the tournament. I don't know that this is a team that has a nice story, a nice tournament run in 2026. We'll find out in a month from now, right? A month and a half from now when the season, the postseason begins. But I don't, and let me know, Tolos, if you disagree, if you think I'm way off here. I don't watch what I watched last night. Diesel, I don't look at that basketball play, that style of play that I've watched last night and all season, and I think RJ on the Joy Law Firm text line's right again. I mean, we've said it. I don't watch it and think, man, this guy really concerns me for an opposing team in the postseason because, like RJ said, he said, my bugaboo for Clemson's been they don't have a go-to guy. And that's the thing. The consistency, that's fine. They can be consistent. And Evan Miyakawa brought it up yesterday. They've been one of the most consistent teams in the country, and I think the most. But that consistency doesn't always equate to postseason success.
Yeah, and even in their inconsistency from game to game, they were consistent in scoring throughout the game. And I mean, they held this Virginia Tech team that can score a lot of points down to 75, which is a winnable mark for them to be able to hit if they were hitting shots. Or if Virginia Tech just wasn't quite as perfect as they were, we might be talking about a Clemson escaping with a win against Virginia Tech. They just didn't. And Brad Brownell, by the way, to your point about Grayson Mann's statement, the 9-14 teams that are coming back from that California road trip, Brad Brownell wanted to be very, very clear. It's not because we're tired. It's because Virginia Tech's that good.
We didn't do anything Monday morning, which we normally do after games. We did not practice really much physically on Monday afternoon, which normally we'd have more of a physical practice. And we were even a little bit lighter yesterday, just trying to save our legs and be ready. I don't want it to be, the story is not that Clemson came back from the West Coast and whatever. We got beat by a good team tonight who outplayed us.
Yeah, but like it is in a way because the numbers don't lie.
Still true.
Yeah.
He just doesn't want that to be the narrative.
And I get it, right? Because like, again, I say it all the time. Two things can be true, Diesel. They did get outplayed last night by Virginia Tech, and they got outcoached, I thought. I mean, the Virginia Tech was better last night, but I also think that it can be true that when you look at the numbers, yeah, there's a trend here. Well, these teams coming back from the West Coast, it's not an excuse, but when you're looking at a 4-10 record for these teams, I mean, that is numbers that you can't deny. So really, really interesting. On the text line, before we get to this UNC news, texter from the 230 says, well, when you have to play West Coast games and then turn around and play that quickly again, you're bound to lose. Duke got a week off after their West Coast game. Don't matter what he says. I just think it does have a little bit to do with it, right? It's not like it didn't happen. Awful news for North Carolina fans today. I just texted a buddy of mine who's a big Tar Heel fan, and he said, well, it's over. Breaking news just a few minutes ago that Zach hopped on the stream and told us about. Appreciate that, by the way, Zach. North Carolina's Caleb Wilson is out with a fracture in his left hand. The evaluation process is ongoing to determine a timetable, Diesel. That is not good for North Carolina. Their remaining schedule is Pitt, NC State, Syracuse, Louisville, Virginia Tech, Clemson, and Duke. 5 of those 7 games are against teams who are firmly in the NCAA tournament picture, and the Heels are currently 19-5. That is not what you want. That's much worse than having to come back from a West Coast trip when that guy, and it kind of feels like your team rides and dies, it goes with him, right? That's awful, awful news for UNC.
Yeah, he's a 20-point-a-night kind of guy. How do you replace that? I mean, they got some good players on the team. Not knocking, Henry Vassar or Seth Trimble. They got some good players, but you can't replace 20 points a night off of that roster.
That is tough, man. That's tough. Again, I think you're still, 19-4. You're still good enough to make the tournament. And I think, I think North Carolina is still going to be in the postseason. Their seed might not be as high because I think they will drop some of these down the stretch, maybe to Clemson. They play Duke again, right? I think the next to last game or the last game of the regular season, I said. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, back on the Clemson side of things, to put a bow on it, Diesel. Again, we're not hitting the panic button. Not hitting the panic button, but it is a loss. Next game's Saturday at Duke, going to be tough. I said it Tuesday. I don't believe Clemson wins this game. I think Duke wins on Saturday. I just think Duke's the better team on paper. And again, the better team on paper doesn't always win, but you've got Duke, Wake Forest, Florida State, Louisville, North Carolina, Georgia Tech. So 6 games remain in the regular season. I still think Clemson has a shot to win a good majority of them, but here's the sad reality. Here's the reality of it. If you play like you did last night, you can lose to Duke, you can lose to Louisville, you can lose to North Carolina, and you make a trip up against Wake Forest or Florida State. You've got to play better. They didn't play good last night.
Yeah, I mean, they're just going to need to take it as easy as they possibly can. I don't know how much, it's hard to do when you have to install for Duke, but they just need to rest.
JB says
that road game because, like I said, they got to go back on the road.
JB on the YouTube stream says they'll lose 3 more ACC games, Duke, Louisville, and UNC. That'll put the Tigers at 13-5 in the ACC and probably a 4 seed in the ACC tournament. Zach says if you play like you did last night, you lose by 30 to Duke. And again, I don't know if you lose by 30, but no, I agree with you, Zach. If you play like you did last night, you're going to be in trouble because it was really, 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 really bad what Clemson did last night.
Well, I think they'll have a way to bounce back. I don't think they're going to win the game, but I think they'll bounce back and have a better performance. They'll look better doing it. It's not going to help them. They're going to lose the game, but still.
Yeah. Diesel, let's keep it on the Clemson subject. This news broke earlier in the week, and I had a few people send this to me. Let's dive into this. Losing $14 million, does that sound good or bad?
It's not advantageous.
You wouldn't recommend it?
No.
Who's losing $14 million? We'll dive into it next. this news that came out from the Greenville News, Diesel, earlier this week regarding the Clemson Tigers. A couple of people sent this to me, and we hadn't had time to get into it, but let's dive into this. Good news, bad news, panic or not panic? That is the question I ask you, Diesel and the Tolos. Clemson Athletics was in the news this week. Why? Well, their profit dropped by about $11 million in fiscal year 2025. And Clemson's last NCAA financial report, Diesel, the school made $893,714 after having a total operating revenue of $198.6 million and total operating expenses of $197.7 million during the fiscal year starting July 1st, 2024. Clemson's profit, Diesel, is down from when the school made $12 million in 2024. You're now looking at 2 of Clemson's profits decreasing. From 22 to 23, the school's profits rose, but have declined since. Is this something you, if you're a Clemson fan, are hitting the panic button on right now?
So this is all sports, not just football, right?
It's in the article. Let me scroll back up. It is Clemson football.
Football. Okay.
Clemson. Well, both are listed in there. If you read the article, it breaks it down. I believe it breaks it down from the athletic standpoint at first, and then a little further down, it talks about just football.
Well, are we shocked that the universities have to start sharing $20 million and all of a sudden Clemson is $14 million in the hole? I mean, that's a program that was profitable before revenue sharing came about.
Yeah.
Now they have to share this revenue, and now they're in the black. So they're going to have to figure out ways. And you know as well as I do, Cole, no athletic department will ever shave money off their budget. They will just find ways to charge you, the fan, more money for everything.
To answer your question, you're kind of looking at both, right? When you ask, well, athletics or football, like kind of the robbing Peter to pay Paul thing. Well, Clemson's football profit dropped $14 million, and it continues, Diesel and athletics downward trend in 2025. So it still generated positive profit. The football did.
Yeah.
A reported profit of about $5.8 million, but that's nearly $14 million less than its previous years. Now, other sports like men's and women's basketball plus non-football sports, Diesel collectively lost nearly $14 million in the same period.
Eric Backage said it. He said baseball is a money suck. Baseball is a money drain. It costs universities money. Men's basketball for some programs or some schools is profitable, but for most, it's a money drain. Women's basketball, money drain. Softball, money drain. Track and field, crew, whatever it is, these all lose money. It's all on football to make the money for everybody else. You know, you look across college football, and most athletic departments are losing money. And as a matter of fact, about half of the Big Ten is losing money.
Yeah.
So, and usually those Big Ten schools are the bottom half of the Big Ten. So, how about that, Clemson fans? You're now on par with Northwestern.
Well, I guess it's a rat race on who's in debt less and who's not losing the most money. It's kind of what it feels like. So you look at these trends, like the declining athletics profit, Diesel, for the second year in a row for Clemson, right? If athletics is not profiting, if they're declining profit rather, then you know football is probably declining profit as well. Even though football remains the department's biggest revenue driver, you mentioned some of those expenses. And look, the reality is while we're bringing in more money, expenses and new payout, it's only going up. You mentioned revenue sharing, right? NIL-related changes, scholarships, facilities, etc. I think those kind of squeeze the margins for many programs nationwide, including Clemson. Now, there might be a program out there where it doesn't squeeze the margin. I don't know. Clemson's been exploring. I do know Clemson has been exploring new revenue streams, right? In any way possible. Last year, they brought alcohol sales to the football games, right? They also introduced mandatory student athletic fees. They've expanded fundraising, other initiatives to offset rising costs and changes in this new landscape of sports economics. So I don't know. Do those new revenue streams help? Sure, they help. Do they get you out of the problem? I don't think so. And you mentioned that Clemson's not alone. So it's not like they're alone in this boat. I think that's the good thing, right?
Why do you think now the revenue sharing came down after that whole issue with Florida State and Clemson suing the ACC wanting unbalanced revenue?
Yeah.
Why do you think these schools, it's not just for ego that they wanted more money because they feel like they deserve it. They wanted more money because they know their expenses are going up and they got to be able to pay for this. Now, how much does that screw the bottom end of the ACC? How much does that screw Wake Forest and Syracuse and schools like that? I mean, are they going to be able to continue funding all these additional sports? And if conferences start to have, this has been my theory for a while now, that the breakaway is not going to be some collection of 40 some odd schools that just say, hey, we're done with this, we're going to go do our own thing. It's going to be a slow bleeding of the programs and the schools that can't afford to sponsor all the sports. And then eventually it's going to run up into run up against the bylaws of the conference and say, well, the conference says you got to sponsor 25, 30 sports. And if you can't sponsor that many sports, you can't be in our conference anymore. So bye-bye. You broke-ass schools at the bottom of the conference who can't afford to pay for all this stuff. Y'all are going to start falling off one by one.
Well, I think the real question for me is, like, football's still carrying the department, right? There's no bones about that. But I think the real question for me is, why is it not carrying the department diesel the way it did in playoff years, right? Look, again, this is not a Clemson problem. We're not singling Clemson out, but this news just came out a couple of days. It's a college sports business problem. That is the issue here. The economics have changed so much in, what, a decade? In just one decade, from rev sharing to NIL, and NIL is not optional. You know, expenses are exploding. I think the days, what's interesting, the days of sitting back and letting football fund everything, I think those days are kind of gone, right? Because you just can't afford to.
Yeah.
At least comfortably.
Yeah.
At least comfortably.
I mean, these sports are going to have to find ways to start breaking even, right? They got to more sports. If it's men's basketball for more programs, they got to be able to figure out how to fund themselves. And hey, we're in an era, and this is a really good thing. We're in an era where college baseball is really starting to take off in popularity, at least attendance-wise. They're filling up these stadiums. I wonder if that's part of why Eric Backich said, hey, I want to push this season back a little bit so we can get more fans in the stands, so we can make more money, so that we're not losing as much money on baseball. All of this thing goes in together. Dewey said Clemson ought to increase tuition by 75%. Well, that's a lot. But Florida State just announced, we talked about it a couple days ago, Florida State announced that they were raising their out-of-state tuition by 15%. They're going to put it on the backs of students coming in from out of state.
Yeah, they are. And you know, look, I think for Clemson fans, you have to ask yourself the question, speaking of Clemson football, can Clemson, do you feel like Clemson can stay elite diesel while operating in a system that now requires uber aggressive spending, right? Creative revenue generation. And again, baseball and stuff, like, popularity is great, but is baseball even filling up stadiums? Is it making a dent? I don't know, you know.
They're going to start courting billionaires.
And there might have to be like a philosophical shift in the way that you're generating money. I think it's a problem that every AD is facing right now. Dabo Swinney built a powerhouse of not just a team, but a program. And I'm talking about from the financial aspect of it, right? He built a financial powerhouse in a different era of college football, completely different era. And now you look at it and say, okay, this era, it's about financial strategy just as much as it is about just getting 5-star recruits. And that's what Dabo was doing so well in the previous era, right? Dabo could go get those 5-star recruits.
It's always the lawyers and the economists that make money off of this stuff.
And look, I don't think Clemson's broke. I don't think Clemson's in a crisis because, again, I think a lot of programs are in the same boat, but like the margin for error, it's so razor thin. And I think like Graham Neff and the president, like, I think it's a fine line to walk. The ACC, like the TV revenue, I mean, what's benefiting you there? You know, it already lags behind the SEC and the Big Ten. So you're not getting like an additional boost from staying in the ACC, and I think that's detrimental to Clemson as well.
And, you know, the payouts in the SEC just keep on going up and up and up. We reported on that last week. That money just they distribute another like $200 million across the board to all of its member institutions. Yeah, the ACC is going to be in a tough spot. I mean, I think short term, it was the right move to keep Clemson and Florida State happy, even though they may or may not have had a home outside of the ACC in the near term future. We'll see what happens when the grant of rights comes up. But and this thing with Florida State, if you raise that tuition on out-of-state school students, eventually out-of-state students will say, well, screw you. I'm not coming to Florida State. I'm not going to Clemson. It's too dang expensive. And then what happens? When you got the lower rate in-state tuition students, you're losing a lot of money now. Now you got to raise the money, raise tuition on them as well. You know, it's focusing on the forest for the trees, and you're putting yourself in a bad spot long term. I know that they're looking at short-term solutions and long-term sustainable solutions as well, but yeah, it's really about courting those donors that will throw a ton of money your way to take the pressure off of you paying your own players.
Well, speaking of donors, where I was going, Diesel, is to the fans, like not just Clemson fans, again, college football fans. I'm being very general here. How much do you care? Because look, anybody could go to Academy Sports and buy a Clemson jersey and go in the previous era that, you know, you were fine there. You were fine in your space of buying the jerseys, going to a game or two that season. But like that level of loyalty isn't cutting it anymore. So I guess my question is, how much do you care? How much do you care about your season or your program success? Because as a fan, you've got to first show up, right? And Clemson hadn't been good lately, so that's a little bit more difficult to do. Ticket sales still drive the machine. That's still a big part of it. And sellouts matter, like premium seating. We see so many schools putting an emphasis on that. Diesel, even Carolina, right? The renovations and the club's seats and the suites. But these NIL collectives, how much do the fans care that they're now not willing, but being asked to put their hard-earned money, your paycheck to paycheck, your paycheck that you're trying to, you know, provide for your family and afford food and pay your bills. Oh, by the way, if you're a Clemson fan, we need that paycheck too now.
Yeah,
we need a cut.
What is the T in IPTAY going to stand for at some point? It used to be I pay 10 a year, and it was 20 a year. Now it's going to be about $2,000 a year. That's what they're going to be asking you for. They're going to be hitting you up for more and more and more. You know, a lot of the Group of Five conferences, Cole, they figured this out already. And again, I'm not tooting the horn of my own conference here, but they figured out that if you keep things small, regional, and compact, you can save a lot of money on travel. You know, a dollar saved is a dollar earned. So if you don't have to fly across country, that could be one of those things that ends up sort of being the death knell for Stanford and Cal being in this conference of saying, hey, we've got how many schools that have to fly out to Cal?
I can't imagine
Stanford
their expenses
all the time. That adds up to a lot of money over the course of a fiscal year for each one of these schools. And so you may see, you know, Clemson and Florida State and UNC and Duke going to Jim Phillips and saying, hey, you got to kick those guys out. They're too expensive to have in our conference.
Well, I think, Diesel, what it all boils down to for me is fans are being asked to do more than ever, and their support's going to dictate their success. Now, I'm not saying like you out there listening, how much you give to IPTAY is going to determine how good they're going to be this year. Am I saying that? No. Does it matter? Yeah, it does. And I'll tell you why. Fan engagement, Diesel, isn't just emotional anymore, right? It is now financial. That's what I'm saying. There was always a financial aspect of it. There was always a finance, because IPTAY costs money. Going to the games costs money. Tailgating costs money. The food, the beer, whatever, all of it costs money. There was always a financial aspect of supporting your program. But guess what? For the majority of the Clemson fan base and other fan bases out there, so much of it was more emotional. You could grow up as a teenager, a little kid, and grow up to be a young adult and not really have spent much money. You could be a great Clemson fan. But if you don't have a skin in the game now, if you're not giving financially, how much are you actually worth to the fan base? That's the reality of it.
I am real good at ignoring those fundraising phone calls. With the caller ID that calls in and says Appalachian State. If it's an 828 number, it's like boop, ignore. I paid you my tuition money. I bought tickets. I went to games. I did all that stuff. But you're not getting anything else out of me.
And there's a lot of fans like that at Clemson.
Well,
there's also a lot of fans that will write the checks.
True. It's not that. That's why so many of these stadiums, like South Carolina at Williams-Brice, they're tearing down seating sections that were available to a couple thousand hardcore fans who have worked their tails off to buy those season tickets, and they have bought the tickets that are a little closer into the 50-yard line over year. And they said, sorry, thanks, we appreciate you, but there's somebody who's going to spend about $15,000 a weekend on that space, so we're going to build something for them.
And the last thing I'll say is, man, it blows my mind just how much people, and again, I don't judge people for spending money where they spend it. I spend money on a lot of dumb stuff too. People probably think I spend money like thousands of dollars a year on corn to feed deer. Like, that sounds stupid, right? So I'm not judging you for spending money on it, but I do think it's wild to look at how much money is spent by an average family that's Clemson fans or South Carolina fans by taking a family of 4 or a family of 5 to go to a one game. You know how much that cost? Over $1,000 now for one game. So now as a fan, you're being asked to go to these games, but if you've got a family of 4 and you and your wife are hardworking Americans, Diesel trying to get by, that's not good enough anymore. It's just not. And you've got to now say, hey, if I want my program to be successful, NIL, here I am, I'm yours. And I don't know that a lot of fans, Clemson fans, Carolina fans, I don't know that they're willing to go there yet.
Texter asks the question, sorry for my ignorance, but do athletes getting paid millions still get scholarships on top of that as well? Yeah, of course they do. They still get their tuition, room, board, books, fees, food, all of that stuff. All of that stuff is still fully funded and paid for. Then they get their NIL money on top of that. Then they get their rev share money on top of that. So they got a pretty sweet deal.
They had a pretty sweet deal before the NIL when they got a free education and a free place to live. And I know a lot of them weren't rich, but you know what? For somebody like me that paid and is still paying for college, that's a pretty sweet deal. Just saying.
Very true. Speaking of getting paid, Cole, some of the random Super Bowl betting information is starting to trickle out there on the internet. How much money was bet on a certain celebrity to be at the Super Bowl? How much money did a certain celebrity who's been on an insane losing streak when it comes to betting big time sporting events? How much did he lose in this Super Bowl? We'll talk about that next. You know, if you were as bad at gambling as Drake, you'd probably learn to just quit gambling. Because Drake, as we all know, Cole, is a rabid sports gambler, and he seems to almost always lose.
Yeah.
He bet $1 million on the Patriots to win the Super Bowl last Sunday. Would have paid out $1.95 million. So I don't know if that means $1.95 million profit, or it would be a $950,000 profit, but either way, he didn't win, so he's down $1 million there, and it happens all the time. You hear about all these crazy things that he's gambling on.
Same way, man.
Yeah, he's just not good at it. Tolos, by the way, did any of you throw a little wager down on the big game? Was it on the outcome of the game, which is illegal in the state of South Carolina, or did you bet on any of the prop bets using any of the various different gambling services that we have advertised here on this show? Let me know. 800-774-0092. Oh, that's wrong. That's the Planet text line.
Wow.
844-326-3663. You'd think I'd know that by now. But curious, did any of you throw anything down on the big game? Here's a wild one, Cole. I didn't know if you knew you could even put money down on this, but on the betting service Kalshi, which is blowing up in popularity right now because you can wager on just about anything on Kalshi, more than $24 million was wagered on whether or not Mark Wahlberg would attend the Super Bowl. You know, he's from Boston, big time Pats fan. People wanted to know if he was going to go. There were rumors. Apparently, there were rumors circulating around frat houses and sorority houses in America, and you know, I guess that matriculated from campus to campus to campus, and people were throwing money down. That's more than was bet on 31 other celebrities and politicians combined.
Wow.
As to whether or not Mark Wahlberg. Would you ever bet on something that stupid?
I mean, I've bet on like coin toss, national anthem over under, things like that. So, you know, I can't say no, Diesel, to answer your question. I was not successful Sunday with prize picks. The player props were tough. Again, there was very limited offense. Even on both sides, in terms of individual statistics, it wasn't like a huge, you know, no players really had like huge. Kenneth Walker had a good game, but it wasn't like offensive outburst. Now, what I did hit on, and I said this for 2 weeks, you heard me say this, and I told my buddies as well, I felt like going in, and again, not saying I'm some expert, but I felt like the outcome of the game was the easiest bet in the 4.5. Seattle was laying 4.5 points. And I felt like for 2 straight weeks, that was the easiest Super Bowl bet ever. I did. And I hit on that. So the Rams, not the Rams didn't play in the Super Bowl. Did you know that? The Rams lost in the NFC Championship. A couple of years ago, Cooper Kupp won. Cooper Kupp and the Seahawks laying 4.5. I did take that, and I felt like it was an easy bet. Patriot fans, I think, were the only ones that I heard of that were actually taking, like Dave Portnoy is a huge Pats fan.
Sure.
I didn't hear of anybody normal without a dog in the fight that was betting on. I think everybody, I know like millions and millions probably winning on New England, but I think for the most part, everybody took Seattle.
Have you ever bet against Dallas?
Yes.
Yeah?
I have.
Does it make you a bad fan to
No,
bet against them?
I have bet against them. And I've been burned a couple of times for betting against them, but I've been right. No, I don't have a problem betting against them because I know how bad they are.
You can do it dispassionately. Say, look, this is a business decision. This is not a heart decision.
I've done
a business decision.
I've done it. I'm not proud of it, but I do. I'm sorry, Dallas, but I have bet against you, especially in the postseason.
The name of this individual, as far as I know, has not been released, but there was a bettor in Las Vegas who placed multiple large preseason bets on Seattle Seahawks futures, bet them to win the NFC.
Wow.
Bet them, how far they'd go in the playoffs or just making the playoffs and winning the Super Bowl. He hedged those bets with some Patriots money line bets closer to the game. He cashed in for $8.1 million. Woo! But talk about that. To me, that's many times over life-changing money.
It is life-changing money. There's no doubt.
You got to pay a lot in taxes on that.
A tenth of that would still be life-changing money, right? Yeah, a lot of tax. I mean, yeah, hopefully, right? But no, I do think I did not bet on the over-under of the national anthem this year. I've done that before. I did not bet on it's funny. I was getting a haircut yesterday, and my barber asked me if I bet on the color of Gatorade that was poured on the Seattle head coach.
They still bet on that?
They do. Oh, yeah.
I know it was popular there for a year or two. It was kind of fun because it was a new bet. Apparently, there was somebody who bet $253,000 on heads being the call for the coin toss, which hit, and he got a $500,000 payout.
Do you know what the Gatorade color was that was dumped on Mike McDonald, rather?
I guess it was blue.
No, it was yellow lime. Yellow lime.
Lime. Who votes on that?
Yellow, baby.
Does the team vote on that?
That's a good question.
Flavor?
I don't know. I don't know if I would imagine the team gets to say, or if it's just like random. But that's a big deal, man.
Interesting.
It's a big deal on that color of Gatorade.
That's such a random, stupid thing to throw money at.
And by the way, crazy stat for you. It was the second year in a row it was yellow lime.
Really?
2 years in a row.
It's my least favorite flavor of Gatorade.
See, I like it.
I hate the yellow lime.
Orange is my What? Orange is the
Orange
worst.
is my favorite.
Orange tastes like cough syrup or medicine to me.
No, that's what cherry tastes like. The red. I
don't love cherry. Light blue's always been
blue ice is always great.
Blue ice is the best. It's just hands down the absolute best. Speaking of the best, who's the best? Who's the worst, Diesel? I have an interesting question. In the very next segment, I posted this on Facebook earlier today. It is time for us to do some power rankings. And Tolos, I want your involvement. We want your involvement on this. Power ranking time, Palmetto State edition. How do you rank these coaches 1 through 10? I'm going to give you every coach of the major sports for both Clemson and South Carolina. It equals 10. How do you rank them? Who's the best? Who's the worst? What do our list look like? We'll tell you next. We're talking Gamecocks, Gamecock baseball. John Whittle of the Big Spur in about 22 minutes on the show. So stay tuned, turn it on, and leave it on if you are a Gamecock fan. But we want to hear from you on the Joy Law Firm text line in this very segment. Also want to remind you, 1 hour from now is the Tolo Takeover. So if you are a Tolo, we want to hear from you at 5 p.m. Don't forget to take over today on the phone lines. But Diesel, it's time to do a little off-season power ranking, Palmetto State edition, and somebody's going to get their feelings hurt today. But we have to do the list. We have to. We just have to. It is time to rank 10 coaches, 1 through 10, in the state of South Carolina, and here are our options. Shane Beamer at South Carolina, Paul Maneri, Lamont Paris, Dawn Staley, and we're going to even throw in softball. Ashley Chastain Woodard. On the Clemson side of things, Dabo Swinney, Eric Bakich, Brad Brownell, Sean Poppy, and John Rittman. Women's basketball and softball. So here's the problem. You can't put them all at one, even though you think they're all great, Tolos, especially if you're a Gamecock or a Clemson fan. How do you rank these in order from 1 to 10, 844-326-3663. Let's take it one at a time here, Diesel. And the Tolos, be quick on the text line or quick on the stream as we go one by one. I think that'll probably be easiest, right?
Okay.
Let's go one by one, and let's start at the bottom.
The 10 hole.
The 10 hole. Not a good place to be. Not a good place to be, but I want to know, just putting it out there, is this a debate for number 10 in your mind? Is it a debate on who 10 is?
The worst coach at these two schools.
Of the 10.
No, it's not a debate. It's Lamont Paris.
Oh.
It's Lamont Paris. Come on. Come on. His ass is grass, man. He's going to be fired after this season.
So, no Shane Beamer?
No, he's getting a really good recruiting class. I understand that this year wasn't his year. Last year was really good recruiting class. Got some key pieces to come back.
This is gonna be fun.
Did his job in replacing the terrible offensive line from last year.
Yeah.
Shane Beamer does not deserve to be in the 10 spot.
All right.
Is that where you have him?
No, I'm trying to debate this thing and draw it out as long as I can, but I can't. I'm sorry. I can't do it. So unfortunately, I have to agree with you. And no debate from me. Lamont Paris is absolutely the 10th worst coach. Yeah. There's no debating it. Sometimes we debate on the show. Sometimes we agree. He's been awful. And now 9 through 3 might be tough, but 2 seasons in a row, you said it. He probably won't be back next year. I'd be surprised if he is.
Probably not. And just to be clear, I'm doing a power ranking. So how I feel about these coaches right now, how I feel about them right now.
Yeah.
I'm not, because, it wouldn't be fair to compare Dabo Swinney, who's been there for 15 years, to Ashley Chastain Woodard, who's been there for 2.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
Yeah. How you feel, power ranking, just straight, who you taking? Straight up. Tolos, do you agree with Diesel and I that Lamont Paris is 10 on the list? 844-326-3663. The Joy Law Firm text line is open. Dewey says, Shane Beamer, 10. Are you surprised by that? Diesel, I'm not. That's Dewey for you.
Well, we know where Crazy Ralph would rank Shane Beamer.
11. Or 12 or 13.
Get that guy out of here.
No doubt about that. All right. So now here's where I think it gets really, really tough. And sorry, Lamont, love you, but you're 10. You're the worst coach of the 10. We had to do the list. Number 9. Your options now: Paul Maneri, John Rittman, Sean Poppy, Shane Beamer, Eric Bakich, Dabo, Ashley Chastain Woodard, Diesel, Big Bad Brad Brownell, or Dawn Staley. And I know you're not putting Dawn Staley at 9.
If you'd asked me this question about Brad Brownell a year ago, we might be having a very different conversation. But Brad's not at the bottom of the list. Brad's
okay
up there right now.
Who is your 9?
Paul Maneri.
Maneri.
That's 2 South Carolina coaches at the bottom of this
sports
list.
Too.
Yeah.
Like sports that should be pretty good. And here I am 2 times in a row I'm agreeing with you. I can't put John Rittman's done a tremendous job with Clemson softball. Sean Poppy's done a tremendous job with Clemson women's basketball. And I know these kind of lists, they're not fair, right? Like putting Backage over Poppy, like none of it's fair. Somebody's going to get mad, but that's just part of the list, right? That's what we do. We're making the list. So I agree with you on the first two. I hope I don't agree with you all the way through the list, but so far I do. I'm going Lamont at 10, Paul Mainieri at 9. Do I think Paul Mainieri is a bad coach? Do I think he's forgotten how to coach, Diesel? I don't think he's forgotten how to coach, but last year it was a tough situation. You know, he came in and I think he walked into an era of college baseball and college athletics that he wasn't ready for. I don't know if he would ever admit that. Plus, they didn't have the talent, right? So sometimes it's unfair, but it is what it is. You and I both have Lamont 10, Paul 9. Here's where I think it is going to be tough because it feels disrespectful to put a good coach at 8.
I think there's a big gap between 9 and 8, probably for both of us.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm with you.
There's a couple of spots on this list where I would look at it and say there's some big gaps from like 1 to 2, from 8 to 9.
I like that.
This is a big gap for me. At my 8 spot, Cole, and I'm going to adjust my list live here on the spot.
Wait a minute.
I'm going to put,
drum roll, please,
Sean Poppy at number 9.
At number 8?
8, excuse me, 8, yeah.
Sean Poppy at 8. So you've got Lamont at 10, Paul Mainieri at 9. You've got Sean Poppy at 8. Ooh.
And it's a big gap between those two.
It's a huge, from 9 to 8 is what you're talking about, right?
From 9 to 8.
Yep.
Sean Poppy is off to a good start. A good start. Not an elite start, but a good start. And I give him a lot of credit for that.
All right. Here's where I finally disagree with you.
Ooh.
I am at number 8. Again, I've got Lamont at 10 like you do. I've got Paul Mainieri at 9. I've got Shane Beamer at 8.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
See, now you're going to have South Carolina fans in your inbox saying that you're just a hater.
I know. And look, list make some, you're going to make, it's like creating a list is like being a referee. You're going to make somebody mad, right? Nobody's going to agree with you. Here's the problem. I can't put Shane Beamer above Sean Poppy. That guy in 2 years has turned that Clemson basketball program that was horrible.
They were 14 and 17 in his first year.
And before
Sub
that,
500.
Before that, they didn't win. Clemson women's basketball didn't win basketball. People didn't attend games.
Sean Poppy was great at Chattanooga. But this ain't Chattanooga we're talking about.
No,
we're talking about Clemson.
I'm telling you, Sean Poppy has it going on. That guy's going to – I'm not saying he's going to do what South Carolina's done, and that's almost impossible to replicate. But Sean Poppy's done a great job, I think, just in terms of building a culture. You've got to start somewhere. You got to lay blocks, man. And I know they had a losing record, and I know that their record doesn't look sexy this year, but I'm telling you, if you follow that program, he is the man for the job. They're going to be they just landed their biggest recruit ever this year in the history of the program. She's coming in next year. So I like Sean Poppy a lot. Sorry, Shane. Hope you're not watching the show right now. If you are, I love you, but you're number 8 on my list. Diesel, who do you have at number 7?
This is where I'm going to put Shane Beamer.
Okay.
I'm putting Shane Beamer at 7.
All right.
Because if you want to be on the top half of this list, you got to be doing it year in and year out. You got to be doing it year in and year out. So he's doing a great job at winning the hearts and minds of the fans. Maybe a better job earlier on in his tenure. It's not quite so good right now.
Yeah.
He's done a really good job at recruiting some high star level recruits. Hadn't done a phenomenal job developing them. Seemingly is willing to make the decisions to move on from coaches when they're not doing well. So Shane Beamer is 7. Again, it's not on the right side of this list.
No.
But still, I mean, he has done some good things, and the fact is he's right at 500 with his record, and there's still a lot of fans that love him.
There are, and there's some that are ready for him to prove it, right? And I agree with you that the gap for me between 8 and 9 is tremendous. Now, I've got Sean Poppy at 7. The reason I have him above Shane Beamer is because there is a tremendous amount of momentum in what they're doing. The results, you said it. Of course it matters, right? Winning matters. And I know if you look just at record for Sean Poppy, you can say, well, Cole, that doesn't make any sense. But I'm telling you, the momentum that program has, you can feel it. You can go watch those games, the fans showing up and getting behind Sean Poppy. I've got him at 7. Still a long way to go, but I've got Sean Poppy at 7. So thus far, you and I both have Lamont Paris at 10, Paul Maneri at 9. You've got Sean Poppy at 8. I've got Shane Beamer at 8. You've got Beamer at 7. I've got Poppy at 7. So we're not far off. Now, real quick side note. Can I read you a funny text from a friend of mine today? Speaking of Lamont Paris, a buddy of mine's a Gamecock booster down in Columbia. I'm not going to say his name because I wouldn't do that to him. But he's livid, Diesel, with the Gamecock basketball program. You know, Lamont Paris, they're bad. Here's the text from the Gamecock booster. I'm not making this up. To Mike Young. You know what Mike Young did last night, right?
Mm-hmm.
Beat Clemson. The text read, Coach, congrats on a good win last night. Thank you for beating the Orange. You're the man. I would love for you to be our coach next year in Columbia. So, Gamecock fans on the Mike Young train. Does that surprise you?
No, not at all. They should want a guy who has local experience, who now has ACC experience, who can bring that down to Columbia. I'd be throwing some money at him.
I think he's too old at this point. I think he's probably toward retirement in my mind. All right, number 6.
I mean, it worked for the old ball coach. It worked for Lou Holtz.
Yeah, I just don't know that Mike has many years left.
You got to turn this thing back in the right direction. And if he could give you 3 years, you know, you could hire somebody really good after that.
Number 6. Who do you have at number 6? If you just tuned in, we're ranking the top 10 coaches in the state of South Carolina.
Number 6 on my list is John Rittman.
Yep, mine too. I'm with you there.
John Rittman. Again, a new coach, new at Clemson coach, who's had a lot of success right out of the gate. Had a lot of success.
No doubt.
So I like him.
Look, being 6 on the list is not a disrespect. It's a good thing. But again, the reason he's 6 for me is because the 5 in front of him are pretty good coaches. And again, the gap between 6 and 3 is not tremendous, but somebody's got to finish 6. Number 5 on the list, Diesel, you have
Eric Bakich,
Ooh.
head baseball coach.
Oh,
Yeah, he's he's taking him to the postseason. Things are going well for him in his tenure. It's time now, Cole, to really show something, right? Like you've been in the conversation a couple times. Now it's time to really show something. Get to Omaha and make some noise.
This is where I struggle here with these 5. Again, I've got Lamont 10, Paul 9, Beamer 8, Poppy 7, Rittman 6. Chastain and Woodard's done such a good job.
Yeah.
Can't put Dabo at 5, can I? Can I put Dabo? No.
I mean,
talking about making somebody. I'm gonna. You know what?
There's a lot of Clemson fans that might agree with you if you put him at 5.
I'm gonna have to agree with you there. I think I'm gonna have to go EB at number 5. Eric Bakich. Done a good job. Won a lot of games. They're competitive in every game. Postseason, they're competitive. Hadn't gotten over the hump yet in the postseason, right? And hadn't gotten to the College World Series yet in Omaha, but really, really good coach. Again, I don't think the gap between 5 and 2 is much here. So let's go to number 4.
I got the head football coach for your Clemson Tigers, Dabo Swinney, as the number 4 best coach of the major sports here in South Carolina. Like, I mean, national championships matter, but this is a power ranking. What are you doing for me right now? What are you doing in the future? The success isn't there right now, but on a personal level, I appreciate how he's trying to steer the sport in the right direction.
Trying.
And if you combine that with all of the recent NCAA court cases and all these things, it may be the emotional heartbeat of the X's and O's on paper things that we have to do to fix the sport.
All right, number 4 for me. Diesel has Dabo Swinney. I have Brad Brownell at number 4.
Oh my!
My feelings on Brad Brownell are like a roller coaster at Carowinds, man. They're up, they're down, they're up, they're down. Look, they have been up and down Diesel for a long, long time. I remember being on another radio station, it feels like 10 years ago, and talking about how I would help move Brad Brownell out of Clemson, right? And there have certainly been frustrating times for Clemson fans regarding Brad Brownell. I think he's a really good coach. I do. I think he's I don't want to say a fantastic elite coach, but I do think he's a very solid coach. He's going to win a lot of games for any program. He's been loyal to Clemson. Clemson's been loyal to him. No disrespect being 4 on this list. This is a pretty good list. But the 3 I have ahead of him, I'm high on them. So who do you have at number 3, Diesel?
Ashley Chastain Woodard, softball, South Carolina.
Yep. Me
Fired
as well.
out of a cannon at full speed. I mean, what she did last year in her first season there, that deserves a lot of credit. They're off to a good start already this season. Jury's still out. You know, we do this poll again next year. She could stay right there. She could rise up a spot, or she could fall 2 or 3.
And, you know, for me, Brad and Ashley are interchangeable right there at 4 and 3. I could put either one of them and be fine with them. But I have my list as of right now. I agree with you. Ashley Chastain Woodard is 3. And that leaves 2. That leaves Dawn Staley for me, and that leaves Dabo Sweeney for me. The 2 it leaves for you are...
I got Brad Brownell at number 2.
Whoa.
And I can't believe I'm saying those
I know.
words.
I'm shocked.
I can't believe it. You know, he's been true to his system. He's still not getting in those elite scorers, and that is going to be the thing that hurts him year over year over year until he can land a couple of those guys in the transfer portal or pull them out of high school. So Brad cannot be the number 1 coach on my list, but right now, ask me again in 2 weeks, this might change. Yeah. Right now, Brad Brownell's number 2.
And that would make number 1?
Dawn Staley.
Yeah. I mean, that's, how do you not? I mean, Dabo and Dawn for me are 1 and 2. I've got Dabo at 2, Dawn at 1. Dabo's had just as much success as Dawn Staley has. Those 2 are the GOATs of South Carolina, right? I mean, they are the GOATs of the state. And you might say Dabo and Dawn are interchangeable, Diesel, but recent success does matter for me. And again, I upset a lot of Clemson fans when I tell them this, but the reality of it is, and I will stand by this, I've said it multiple times, Dabo Sweeney hasn't won anything other than ACC championships in this new era of college football. He just hadn't. The previous era, Dabo was as dominant as any coach and solidified himself as one of the best college football coaches ever in a previous era of college football. We're no longer in that previous era of college football. I love Dabo, like him a lot, respect him. But this new era, what has he proven? He's not proven anything to me. So for that reason, he stays 2, but I have to put Dawn Staley at 1. She uses the portal. She's a fantastic coach, and she also comes on this show anytime we ask. So that also matters too.
There's a football coach from just down the road from us that won't come on our show.
He's been on once, right? He's been on once. Dabo?
Yeah.
I think he came on 2 years ago, didn't he?
I don't think so.
Really?
I don't think so. I don't think Dabo ever came on our show.
I thought he did. At ACC? I thought it.
No. He skipped us, remember?
I remember
he
last year.
Us.
I remember last year. Yeah, we could get him.
So you're 10, all in a row.
Number 10, Lamont. Pulmonary 9. Shane Beamer 8, Sean Poppy 7, John Rittman 6, Eric Bakich 5, Brad Brownell 4, Ashley Chastain Woodard 3, Dabo Sweeney at 2, and Dawn Staley is the crown, the crown jewel, if you will.
So where we really differ is 2 and 4, because I have those 2 flopped. I've got Lamont 10, Pulmonary 9, Sean Poppy 8, Shane Beamer 7, John Rittman 6, Eric Bakich 5, Dabo Sweeney 4, Ashley Chastain Woodard 3, Brad Brownell 2, and Dawn Staley number 1.
I love me some Dabo. I mean, Dawn Staley. I love Dabo too, but I love Dawn.
Wow,
Staley.
Freudian slip there.
I did. I really did. I was trying to say I love Dawn. I do love Dawn. You know, I love Dawn.
She's phenomenal every time we bring her on. Love her. She's a pleasure to have on the show.
It's coming up on time at the end of the season, right before the SEC tournament, right here in Greenville. We always have her on, and I think we will again this year.
And you can talk a little trash to her.
I do.
As a Cowboys fan.
I don't have much trash to talk, but it's true.
When we come back, let's talk South Carolina athletics with John Whittle of the Big Spur right here on the Fan Upstate. Think about this, Cole. Tomorrow at this time, we'll be in the middle innings of South Carolina baseball's first game, 1 p.m.
go.
first pitch against Northern Kentucky tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun to follow along with their first game right here on the Fan Upstate to talk about South Carolina baseball, football, and everything else. Right now, we're joined by John Whittle of the Big Spur. John, what can you tell us about what's been going on in the offseason at Founders Park? If anything, you know, these stadiums are always looking for ways to upgrade and drag a little extra money out of their fans. What's going on at Founders Park? Anything new for 2026?
Nothing crazy. They got some fresh paint on the railings. They've got a little. They've extended the netting down each of the lines. They're selling Yetis at a couple of games. Other than that, I think we're about status quo.
Hopefully,
I think they may have upgraded the chicken fingers as well.
I was going to say, to answer Diesel's question, hopefully what's new is fans, because there were none last year. I was at a few, and that would be my answer to Diesel's question.
How can you have a Gamecock as a mascot, not have the best chicken tenders in the conference?
John, let me ask you this. Let's compare the season to flights. Do you like flying or no?
Yeah, I don't mind to fly.
Okay, so if we were to use the illustration of an airplane, last year, man, like this thing, like taking off, maybe it got off the ground a little bit, but there was all kind of turbulence. You've seen those videos where they just, in the wind, the high wind, that thing just struggles to get off the ground. And, you know, at times it kind of steadied itself last year, but it seemed like there was just turbulence all season long. And then finally, like there was no crash landing because it was already like, you know, just a few feet above the runway. If we're using the airplane example, how do you think the 2026 Gamecock season goes with the airplane illustration?
Yeah, I don't know that it's ever going to get into high flying mode. I'll say that. You know, this is a team that's picked at the bottom of the conference, and you know probably should be. You know, I felt kind of the same way about the basketball team this past season. Was picked at the bottom of the conference and probably should have been. And you know, those guys talked about how they were playing with a chip on their shoulder and wanted to prove everybody wrong, and that's what they talked about. But that's not really how they played. And we'll see what happens with this baseball season. But you know, I think most of the teams in this league, if not everybody, but Missouri has more talent than the Gamecocks, and you know they're going to have to play a little bit above their heads to be able to be competitive and earn a spot in the postseason.
John, do you see a stretch though when you look at the season where the plane, you know, you get to altitude and you breathe a minute, there's no turbulence? Do you see a stretch anywhere where the Gamecocks could feel that?
Not really. I mean, they come pretty hot and heavy at you. And I'm not even trying to be all that disrespectful to this team. I mean, you start out with you know, a non-conference schedule that's not all that great. So I mean, if you want to talk about early in the season, then maybe. But you know, Clemson's a really good team in the third week of the season, and you know, when you get into SEC play, you start out at Florida. And then host Arkansas, and it just doesn't really let up. So, you know, it's you know, all of these teams are going to be better than South Carolina. Does that mean that South Carolina is going to win all or lose all of these series? You know, probably not. But you know, it's going to be a really uphill battle.
So, John, what do you suspect that the personality of this team or the MO of this team offensively is going to be? I mean, are they going to be long ball hitters? Is that going to improve any this year? Because, you know, they only hit 58 dingers last year compared to the opponent's total of 95. Or are they going to have to be a small ball, move guys over on the bases and get creative kind of team?
Well, they do have more power this year for sure. You know, assuming some of it translates from you know, the players that they've brought in. I mean, they got some home run hitters out of junior college. They've got some guys who have hit home runs at mid-major schools. You know, you gotta see and be sure that you know, it translates into the SEC. And you know, I think it will with some guys, and there are a couple of guys who I just don't see it from just yet. But there will be some more power on this team. You know, when you listen to Paul Mainieri talk hitting and when you listen to Monty Lee talk hitting, their philosophies and their ideas don't always align real properly. And we'll see what it ends up looking like. I do think that this looks it has looked in the scrimmages more like a more Monty Lee coach team in terms of just being aggressive with your swings in the strike zone. He wants you to shrink that strike zone and be sure you're not chasing, and being sure that you're firing off good swings at hittable pitches. And Mainieri doesn't like walks. He wants you to be a little bit more of a free swinger. And I see a little bit more Monty right now than I do with Paul, and that that determines a lot of how a game is going to play out and how a season is going to go. So right now that's sort of what I see, and they need some guys to play better in the season than they have in the preseason and the build up into the season.
Who'd you see more of last year, John? Because we talked about this yesterday. I mean, it's a big year for Paul Mainieri, but something that I don't think is being talked about enough is, and I know a lot of fans love Monty Lee, but this is a big year for Monty Lee too. One of the higher paid assistant coaches. Who'd you see more of last year? And I guess the second part of that question, is that not a major problem, what you just said?
I mean, they knew what they were getting into. So,
sure.
I mean, major problem, maybe, I don't know. I mean, that's I guess we'll see how the season plays out. I think I know that was a big problem last year is hitters were caught between two minds so much, because they were hearing different things from different people. So, it's got to be more of a consistent message this year for sure. But I mean, to your point, like, it's a big year for both guys. Like if the season is similar to last year, I mean, neither guy's going to be around. Forget one of them. So it's a big year. It's a big year for both.
So that kind of leads into the next question I was going to ask you, John. In your mind, who kind of gets that axe first, Paul or Lamont? You're saying you think there's a good chance, a possibility of two in the same season. Is there money around the fan base for that?
Basketball season ends first, so depending on how that one plays out, that'll tell you. I think it's not an ideal world, but it's a real possibility. So you can't finish at the bottom of the conference 2 years in a row, and that's what South Carolina basketball is looking at. That's basically what South Carolina baseball is looking at. It's hard to even count Missouri because they're so non-competitive in baseball for the most part. I say that South Carolina has to go out to Missouri this year. We'll see what happens. So I don't want to put up bulletin board material for them, but I mean, both of these teams finished so bad last year. If they finish that bad again this year, you can't really justify keeping both guys.
No, and I'm with you on that. I if you're a good AD, I don't think you can say, well, both suck, but I don't want to fire two. I think you got to rip the Band-Aid off. I mean, if they suck, they suck. John, I know that was a rough way to put it, but John Whittle of the Big Spur joining us on the Fan Upstate. Is KJ Scobie, is the season going to hinge on how great that kid can be this year?
Oh, I don't know. I think baseball is just such. You got to have so many more other parts that I don't know that he can really dictate. Now he's such an important piece because I mean he's one of your best players, if not your best player. So if your best player doesn't play up to his capability, and you're already only or lesser talented than most of the other teams, and that's going to be a huge hindrance to your ability to have success. But everything I see about KJ so far is he's in a good position to have more of a sophomore surge than a sophomore slump, I guess you could say. So I feel good about where KJ is going into the year, and South Carolina needs him to be every bit as good as what he can be.
How is he doing health-wise? I know he was a little banged up about a week ago. Bo Hollins as well. Expect them both to be in the lineup tomorrow?
Yeah, I expect them both to be in there. KJ, testament to him and, I don't know if his pain tolerance or strength and conditioning or just God-given ability, but he healed from a separated shoulder pretty darn quickly. Popped out, popped right back in, and he was ready to go a couple of days later. So I don't know how it worked, but it's worked for him. And he struck out a little bit in those couple of scrimmages after coming back, but he was swinging at some good pitches most of all, and that was his biggest deal last year was just plate discipline and swinging at the right pitches. And I think he's improved on that a lot this year. But he's good. Bo Hollins is good. I expect him to start too. Everybody else is pretty healthy.
John, when you look at Big South baseball, where do you stand on the difference in Big South compared to the SEC? Because I think one of the most interesting stories about this weekend, man, is Ant Phillips starting the second game on Friday, transferred from USC Upstate right here in Spartanburg, in our listening area. Big South newcomer of the year, all Big South first team honoree, Big South all tournament team, 7-2 last year, 3.64 ERA, 20 appearances for the Spartans, played against Clemson last year and looked pretty good against the Tigers in that regional, right? Struck out 9 batters in 6 innings, also had a season high 11 strikeouts against High Point. Where do you stand on players just jumping into the SEC from the Big South? Big deal or little deal?
Big deal. I mean, it's a big deal. It's a big deal for pretty much anybody coming from mid-major type conferences and those types of programs. Sometimes they work out great, and sometimes it just doesn't. But I like Ant and think he's in a pretty good spot going into it. But you see what he did last year against Clemson, and that gives I think everybody a little bit of optimism for him to go out and be so good against such a good lineup. But, in some ways, he is a 2-pitch pitcher. I mean, really good fastball, really good slider. I mean, the changeup has to be better than what it was last year. And I think there have been some times in scrimmages where it's been good enough, and then there's been some times where it just hasn't been. So for him to be a productive SEC pitcher, he's going to have to throw that changeup with a little bit more consistency than he has so far, or else he's going to be a 4 or 5 inning pitcher, go through a lineup twice and not a 6 or 7 inning guy.
At John M. Whittle on Twitter is where you can go find him and give him a follow. John, how did Shane Beamer learn about Devontae Miles' arrest, and exactly how long did it take him to throw Devontae off the team?
It didn't take long, and part of that reason is he was suspended earlier in the year too. I didn't have any thought that he would actually be brought back. Given that he was suspended early in the season, but even if he hadn't been, I doubt that he'd have been brought back either. So, it was pretty quick. It was pretty quick for everything to happen.
John, I asked you a few minutes ago about KJ, but maybe another steady Eddie. I mean, could Brandon Stone also have a big, I don't want to say like a big turnaround year, because he had bright spots last year, but I don't think consistency was there. Could Brandon Stone surprise Gamecock fans this season?
Yeah, I think that's certainly a possibility. And, Brandon wasn't particularly consistent, but neither was what they were asking him to do. I mean, they I don't want to say jerked him around, but they had him in different roles all season long, whether it was, starting, whether it was long relief, short relief, closing. I mean, it felt like he was in different spots all the time. So, and honestly, it's kind of shaping up to be that way again this year. So, Brandon is a little bit different this year. He's trimmed up a little bit. He looks to be in a little bit better shape than what he was last year. Not that he was in bad shape last year, but he's just a little bit different. I think he will have a little bit more. I think he's in best position to have more stamina in games and be able to go a little bit longer if need be. So I think he's in a pretty good spot. I don't know how exactly his season is going to play out. You know, I think he's more of a bullpen guy, but when you have a freshman as your Friday night starter, a Big South pitcher, as you mentioned, as your Saturday starter, it kind of seems right to me to have him in the Sunday starting role. He's got SEC experience, and you feel like you have a pretty good idea of what you might get from him.
John, you look down the last 7 games for the South Carolina Gamecocks basketball team the rest of the season. It's tough. It's a really tough slate with really only Mississippi State looking like the only winnable game left on the schedule. Ole Miss not that great either. I mean, would it shock you if they ended the game on into the season on a 12-game losing streak?
No. I mean, no. I think that anybody who wants to question some of the effort on with how South Carolina has played here the last few weeks, I don't think that they would be wrong in doing that. And, the more those losses, keep piling up, and, if we're being honest, these next 2 have a chance to be really, really bad. It can spiral even more. So, it wouldn't surprise me a bit if they end up losing the rest of these. Now, as you mentioned, there are a few winnable games left on the schedule. Probably should beat Mississippi State at home, have a chance to go on the road and beat Mississippi. When you look at Ken Palm, I mean, they give South Carolina, last I saw, about a 35% or so chance of beating Kentucky at home. I mean, I believe that when I see it, but there's certainly a lot of games that, you don't even feel like South Carolina has a chance. And the more these losses pile up, especially with the way that they've played here lately and some of the things that have happened, I wouldn't feel good. I wouldn't feel good about guaranteeing a victory, down the stretch.
John, last question for you. Is there anything Lamont can do down that next 7-game stretch, or do you just feel like the writing's on the wall there? I think the writing's on the wall for the most part in terms of like what this team is. To me, to save his job, though, can he save his job?
I think the only chance he has to save his job and to win a few games is to somehow get these guys playing harder. I don't. The talent is what it is at this point, but there's been some give up in these guys here lately. Especially in second halves of games when it's probably not going to go your way, but still somewhat competitive, and they keep finding a way to lose by 20 instead of 10. If these guys can play a little bit harder, then maybe they have a chance to win a few games. And if you're playing with effort, then I don't know, maybe you can make an argument, but I don't. It's hard to imagine that things come together like that for the South Carolina team.
John, you're the best, man. Have fun this weekend. As always, appreciate you, and we'll do it again next week.
Absolutely. Sounds great. Appreciate you having me. Absolutely.
John Whittle of the Big Spur. Tell you what, that wasn't meant to be like a depressing interview, but God, I mean, this athletic program, they better get it together. Lamont's going to be fired in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and Paul Maneri better win. I mean, it's
yeah. I mean, it feels like an impossible task to come up the rankings in anything right now in the SEC. It's just so good across the board.
It's tough. Daily Wire's top headlines in sports. That'll cheer us up. That's next. What's popping in the sports world? Good thing we have a segment called Our Daily Wires, where we hit all of the sports headlines out there, most of them at least.
I almost said pop.
Yep, you could do that too. Yeah. Pop, buzz, whatever. Down goes Clemson. Diesel Mike Young and Virginia Tech took down Clemson on Wednesday evening by a score of 76-66. The Tigers now 10-2 in ACC play. Both of our local teams did the opposite of what I said they would do last night. Diesel, Wofford, and Furman laid an egg. Wofford lost at Sanford. It wasn't close, 97-80, while Furman lost to Mercer, 69-64. My goodness, a tough night for both of those teams. And tonight, college basketball, no, not a good night. Find a movie, find a show, go out, dance in the street, whatever. No top 25 teams, like zero, playing tonight.
How did that happen?
In college basketball. So, again, find your movie tonight, I guess, is what I can tell you. Locally, the Burns Running Rebels were victorious last night at Boiling Springs, defeating the Bulldogs 80-65. Burns now 21-4 on the season, 12-1 in region play. And tomorrow, a region championship you'll hear right here on the Fan Upstate. Riverside at Burns, final regular season game of the year, and Region 2-5A up for grabs. Should be a lot of fun. You'll hear it right here on the Fan Upstate. Utah Jazz forward Jaren Jackson Jr. will have season-ending surgery to remove a growth in his left knee, the team announced Thursday. Jackson, a two-time All-Star, will miss the remainder of the season, a source told ESPN.
Gross.
Yeah, it kind of does sound gross, doesn't it? Doesn't sound good. BYU wide receiver, speaking of not good, Parker Kingston has been charged with first-degree felony rape, the Washington County Attorney's Office announced on Wednesday. Bad news for BYU. And also, more bad news here. I don't know if you heard this or not. A community college bus carrying the school's baseball team crashed and overturned in a ditch. This is Iowa Lakes Community College. This is awful. Killing one person, injuring the other 32 occupants. The morning crash involved the Iowa Lakes Community College bus, no other vehicles. It occurred on a highway near Twin Lakes, about 110 miles northwest of Des Moines. I mean, that's awful. Awful news there, man.
Terrible. I wonder if weather was involved.
I don't know. You just hate to hear that.
Yeah.
Syracuse athletic director John Wildhack is retiring as he's planning to leave the school on July the 1st. He exits the job after a decade in charge at the Qs without an athletic director or a chancellor, or leaving Syracuse without an athletic director or a chancellor, and with the basketball program struggling in the post-Jim Boeheim era. I've been good up there.
With a last name like Wildhack, he should have been a baseball player.
Yeah.
That's a great name.
Better than the AD, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. A few more here for you. A judge on Wednesday in Nashville kept New York Jets first-round pick Darren Lee in jail without bond as he faces first-degree murder. Man, dark daily wires today, right? Murder charge in the death of his girlfriend in Tennessee. The ruling by Hamilton County Criminal Court Judge Torrey Smith came after Lee was arrested and charged late last week. The New York Giants are hiring former Tennessee Titans coach Brian Callahan as their quarterbacks coach and passing game coordinator. 41 years old is Callahan. The Dallas Mavericks rookie Cooper Flagg, not good news here, has a left midfoot sprain that will sideline him through All-Star Weekend. The team announced Wednesday he's expected to be available after the break, a source told ESPN.
Translation, he really doesn't want to play in the All-Star game?
No, I don't think so.
He likes being named to the All-Star team, just doesn't really want to play. I don't think any of these guys want to play in the All-Star game.
No, I think All-Star games are dead. They have been. I love this. This is the best Daily Wire of the day, though. I saw this on Twitter last night. This is the coolest thing ever. It's like the coolest thing ever. The Big 12 will play its men's and women's basketball tournaments, Diesel, on a high-tech glass floor embedded with LED technology that will allow the conference to feature data-driven graphics, advertising, and even games for fans. During timeouts, the logo switch, the color switch, the name switch.
I've seen it. They're horrible.
No, it's awesome. It's the best thing in the world. Every conference tournament needs them.
Ugly.
The floors have been used at the 2024 NBA All-Star Game, and the Big Ten, kudos to them. I think this is the coolest thing ever.
So during the game, will the court be changing colors during the game?
No. You can change them throughout games. You can change them throughout quarters, things like that. It's not going to turn into like a laser show. But Diesel, how about the Charlotte Hornets? Speaking of basketball,
Hey.
Charlotte won. I'm going to have to go get me a ticket up there to
They're good.
Spectrum Center. They won again on Wednesday.
Yeah.
110-107 over the Hawks. They're now 26-29, still below 500, but they're 2.5 games out of a playoff spot.
I think they've won something like 10 out of their last 11.
That's awesome.
They're on fire.
Men's hockey, USA up 3-1 over Latvia in the second period. Chloe Kim earned a silver in women's snowboard halfpipe and the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. Jordan Spieth, Chris Geider up RT3 at -6. Scotty Scheffler, T59.
Oh.
Ooh, even through 12 is Scotty. Those are
Off
your
to a
daily
slow
wires,
start.
Diesel.
It's hard to win tournaments when you are 6, 7, 8, 9 strokes
Yeah,
back.
you got to start better.
Yeah. Cole, when we come back, it is time for you, me, and the Tolos to bitch about something. The Tolo Takeover. Whatever you got to say about anything, this is your chance to do it. That's next. Tolos, we call you Tolos every day, but do you know what Tolos means? It means you turn it on and leave it on. You listen to the show every single day from start to finish. A lot of you do a phenomenal job at that, and we appreciate you. We need you right here and now to call in for our weekly Thursday 5 o'clock segment called the Tolo Takeover. This is your opportunity. This is your reward for listening to the show every single day. You got something to say. Now is the time to say it.
Dewey gets a reward?
No.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
Usually for Dewey, it's like a pencil eraser or, a Capri Sun or a pat on the head for Dewey. But
I forgot to bring the jersey today. It's in my car. I've got to get remind me during the next break, Rick.
Did you spray it with Lysol?
No, I didn't spray it.
So Rick brought us a what he claimed to be a game-worn Super Bowl New Orleans Saints jersey.
There's no way.
When we asked him what Super Bowl is from, he didn't know. And then when we asked him what else, who was on it, he didn't know.
Yeah, I don't think it was.
And he didn't even know what team it was.
Evan from Promotions is yesterday. He told us that the Saints wore white during the Super Bowl.
Oh.
So I don't know. Rick. We got the jersey. I'm gonna hang it up. Or can we, let's see.
So what do you think? Did somebody shine Rick on and sell him a game worn jersey that wasn't authentic, or did Rick buy a jersey and sew a patch onto it?
I'm trying to think where we're gonna is there room back there behind you to
There's a trash can over here.
No, we can't throw it away.
We can't throw it away.
I don't think there's room over there.
It's gotta be off camera.
We could put it.
We're not a Saints organization here.
This whole wall is empty. We could put it over here on the left, right?
Yeah.
Tolos, let's hear from you. 844-326-3663. Whatever it is you want to talk about. We could turn it over to ChatGPT. I think I love ChatGPT too much. I asked ChatGPT
you rely on it a lot.
Oh, you have no idea.
How many times a day do you ask ChatGPT stuff that you should know the answer to?
Oh, stuff that I should know?
Yeah. Or just in general, like what is this thing? How should I make my breakfast this morning?
No. I don't use it for that stuff. I use it for work more than like my other work more than I do anything else. And I'm telling you, man, like it's
but doesn't ChatGPT lie to you a lot? I heard that.
No, not like how to do this or how to do that. More like business stuff. I mean, okay. I will give it to Chat. If you ask ChatGPT right now,
you're on first name basis now.
Oh yeah, first name.
Hey, Chat, what do you think?
I'll give it to Chat on this. If you were right now, like, and I think we opened this can of worms, but we'll have this conversation. I think ChatGPT is better than people give it credit for. Like if you right now said, "Hey, Chat, I want to improve my credit." Well, you don't like me calling it Chat? It's Chat. It's weird. Chat. No, it's Chat.
It's like your buddy Chet.
It's Chat. Hey, if you sat down and said, "Hey, I want you to improve my credit, help me save $500 a month," whatever it is, it will like. I'll tell you this. I've used ChatGPT to streamline a lot of my stuff for my other work, and like the processes, things like that. I mean, I've used it a lot, man.
See, I don't trust it because it just gives you generic answers that you still have to go and apply to whatever it is you're trying to do. Like but you wouldn't give it a link to you wouldn't give it your bank account information and say, "Hey, log in and check out my spending."
I wouldn't do that, but I'm telling you, it's helped me. I think it's helped me in an area of structure. I love having structure in my life, and maybe sometimes one of the things I lack is having enough structure. And whether it's my other business or this, whatever, ChatGPT gives me like things to structure my life. And, also health-wise, I'll give it that. I've used Chat a lot. I've lost some pounds, not as much as I need to. I'm still losing. But if you ever are bored, Diesel, get on there and start asking ChatGPT about health.
Put together workouts.
100%.
I'm sure it's great for
yes.
Like, hey, I want to work.
It does mine.
I want to work chest and shoulders today.
It does mine. I'll show you.
Give me 5 workouts that I can do for that.
Look at this. You can see my phone.
Yeah.
That's all Chat. I'm telling you, I use it for everything. I do. And
I also heard that they're in deep financial trouble right now.
Who?
ChatGPT.
Oh, really?
Because there's no ads on it. They can't make any money off of ChatGPT.
I hope they don't take it away.
That's the biggest problem is they're going to take it away.
Dan
Or they're
B,
gonna
what's
start
up,
putting
Dan?
ads on.
I see Dan and Dewey in the stream going back and forth. Hit us up. Phone lines are open. Tolos 844-326-3663. Let me ask you this, though, on this chat thing before we get away from it. I was having this argument, and I meant to ask you this earlier. I was having this debate with a friend of mine. The debate was this. He said ChatGPT was bad because we as human beings don't have to learn how to do these things anymore with AI.
It's true.
But my argument, Diesel, was my counterpoint was, while you may think it's bad, I actually am learning a lot of these things that I would have never learned without ChatGPT. So it's introducing me to a lot of these new learning tools.
I've always said with the ability to Google anything at any time, people don't learn anything anymore.
But can't you learn it through Google?
You look up the answer, but that's the thing. You look up the answer really quickly, and then as soon as you use the answer, however you need to use the answer, it's just poof out of your brain.
But how else would you learn it, though?
I mean,
you know what I'm saying?
You don't have to figure it out for yourself. You know, it's like the difference between streaming a song versus going over to your record collection, pulling out the record, cleaning it off, putting it on the turntable. Like, you take more ownership with it, so you have a higher tendency to learn it. Actually learn it, internalize it, and it's stuck in your brain forever. But with Google, if you just say, "Hey, how do I fertilize this plant?" You just do it, and you just flush it out of your brain because you can just look it up again the next time.
Tolos, who do you side with here? I think if you were to go old school and say, "Hey, I'm going to go with the dictionary, encyclopedia, and learn it that way," and I always said, I do agree with you in the sense of writing essays by hand. I always learn things better by writing them out by hand, compared to, just typing it in my computer, because it for whatever reason, writing it by hand helped me learn it. But I think going and using Google or now ChatGPT, I know, no kidding, I know so many more things today that I didn't know before ChatGPT.
Well, I know full well that ChatGPT is going to replace Google, because Google is so stuffed full of ads, right? And it's such crap.
I use both still.
You need to find a recipe for something, right? And so now you got to go through 30 articles that it makes it look like you just click on it and get the answer.
What's your name?
Well, then they hide it in the middle of an article, or they put it in a list of other things. That's not what I asked for. I don't want that. I just want the answer to the question. And Google has gotten away from that. ChatGPT is at least is a better solution right now.
But between TikTok, ChatGPT, and Google, you can't stop Cole Bryce. I'm telling you. Between the three,
there is nothing you can't look up.
We had, by the way, at one time, the 5 different phone calls at one time. So let's go to Dewey. Now make it 6. I'm gonna get your names, I promise, but I guess let's let Dewey kick this thing off, Diesel. What do you think? Dewey, you there?
Dewey. Oh,
what's your name?
ChatGPT is garbage. That's all I got to say about that. But anyways, I've been doing some thinking lately, and I got a lot to ramble about, but I got this one thought. And one thing I don't understand is we talking about making money and all these organizations wanting money, and everyone just lives on money. But you know what? Church wants your money. And you know why?
What's your name?
Because they're always talking about tithing and giving your 10% and your 30% and your 50% and all that. And where's that money going to? It's going to what? The Chick-fil-A fund and the old people's fund and this fund and that fund. It's not even going to anything. And paychecks. They got to pay the clerk and the janitors and all that. But you know what? I got a solution to all that. If you people don't want to pay your tithes, you untithers, because the Bible demands you pay your tithes. The churches want to make money. You know what they should do? This is a good idea.
What's that?
They should charge each person $20 to enter the church every Sunday.
It's like a bench fee. If you want a place to sit down, it's going to be $20.
I was answering phones. This is so random.
Yeah,
this is so random.
Dewey wants to charge for church now.
Well, you make money. Think about it.
Dewey's a smart business. We didn't know Dewey was a businessman.
$20 a person, you make a killing off of. Yeah, if your church has 100 people,
Dewey,
you make a killing off of that.
real quick,
And
Chat
the church
GPT, Dewey, yes or no, good or bad, Chat GPT?
It's horrible.
All right. Thanks for the call, Dewey.
Dewey, before you go, should I get a punch card for church? Like if I go 4
Like a
times,
barber shop.
do I get the 5th one for free?
Well, if you give, I don't know, above your $20 a week, but it should be $20, and then they can afford all their little your gimmicks and your gizmos, and pay for all the little preachers that come out, and then you don't have to worry about tithing and tithing preachers talking about tithing anymore. Oh,
Thanks, Dewey's on one today.
God.
That was the most random Tolo takeover, I think.
come
That
from?
was random. And speaking of random, Rick and Greer's next. What's up, Rick?
Hello, Rick.
Okay, I just wanted, it's a good call. I just wanted to say hey,
Hey,
and one of your buddies wanted to say hey. Chris Stahakis over from Stacks Original. I'm eating over here, and you wanted to know if you wanted supper.
Michael or Chris? Who? Which one?
Both of them are over here.
Well,
Oh,
I don't know Chris as well as I know Michael. I know Michael well. Great guy. I'm sure Chris is as well. You need to be nice to those guys over there, Rick.
can
They're
I get
good
a
folks.
bologna, egg, and cheese on toast?
Yeah, you want one?
Yeah.
Don't say that. Don't say that. No. He'll show up to the door right there, Diesel. No.
Well, there's an electronic lock.
No, I will.
No.
Hey,
He will
and
show.
guess who else is over here? I think it's him. I just walked in.
Who's that?
Rob Brown.
Golly, it's a party.
Hey,
Are you
everybody's
really
over.
in the restaurant right now calling us?
Yes, I am.
Oh, my God. Rick, thanks for the call.
Thanks, Rick.
Enjoy your dinner.
God.
This is off the rails. Next, Nashty. What's up, Nashty?
Hey, man. First of all, Dewey, that was a horrible, horrible idea, charging people to go to church. 10%, and then you started going 20%, 50%. What in the world are you talking about, Dewey?
Now you know what we have to deal with every day, Nashty.
10%. All right. So, yeah, I side with Diesel. I'm old enough. Diesel and I are probably close to the same age. I'm 51 or something like that.
I'm not there yet.
And yeah, I'm old enough to realize the value in learning it. You retain it.
How do you learn it, though? Why can't I learn something through Chat GPT?
Well, you go to the card catalog.
You got to use the Dewey Decimal System. Oh,
What's your name?
Oh man, I mean, just stuff that you actually read and print, you retain better than some digital,
But I read it just like you read it.
No, man, I'm telling you, that's why I read my Bible as a physical book, because I can remember where on the page I read those words.
Okay.
I definitely retain it better. So if there's something that, I do a lot of Audible with my work. I can listen to a lot of books. I don't retain them nearly
That's interesting.
that I would if I were to read the actual book.
Okay.
So yeah, he's right. He's absolutely right. You can use them as tools to help you here and there, but I definitely would not start relying on them, but that's my 2 cents.
I like
for what
it.
It's worth.
Nasty,
Thanks,
appreciate the
Nasty.
phone call, man.
And then when the internet goes down, Cole, you got nothing. If you learned it, it's in there.
I know. I'm not saying like live on it. All right, Dan B's next. What's up, Dan?
Yeah, I'll weigh in. I don't touch any of those Chat GPTs or any of the company ones. Yeah, I'll use the Google AI to answer a question. That's pretty useful in almost real time. I mean, I've answered stuff you guys have said on the air, and I looked it up
Sure.
real quick, and there was the stat.
Yeah.
If it's available. But as far as like learning stuff, like I'll go and use YouTube for all that. Like, hey, how do I change the brakes on a 2022 whatever?
Yeah.
That there's always a video of something with regard to that. So yeah, I mean.
Well, how is that any different than me using Chat GPT to learn something? YouTube.
Well, I'm not saying it necessarily is different. I just don't want to touch
The
an
AI.
AI that's on my computer. Like I'm not downloading anything to So then let it take over. I mean, come on, Chinese are going to just take over everything. So,
hey, Dan, real quick before we let you go, who wins Sunday?
You asked me that earlier this week. I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad.
The qualifying's not even done. They have to do the duels tonight.
What about tomorrow? Can I ask you tomorrow?
Who's going to win in the truck race?
No, I'm talking about Sunday. I'm not going to watch the truck race.
Cletus McFarland's going to be in it.
And isn't Tony Stewart racing trucks as well tomorrow?
Yeah, he's racing trucks.
All right.
But,
Is there an Earnhardt in the race?
No.
No, Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s race team. He has
Briscoe, right?
A truck too, and I don't know who. No, Briscoe's a
no.
guy.
Who's his truck guy? I forgot. I forget.
I don't know all.
Yeah.
He has one or two trucks, and I know he's got 4.
I got you.
Of the O'Reilly series, but yeah, anybody else, get your emails into the show, and I'll add you.
Thanks, Dan.
League.
Appreciate you, man.
All
Good
right.
stuff. God, these calls just keep coming in.
They're coming. We got to go quick. Tom in Somerville's next. What's up, Tom?
Hey guys, I think
What's your name?
is trying to build a church league NIL
what's your name?
juggernaut, and he just doesn't want to admit that's how he wants to use the money. But going back to the Chat GPT, I love Chat GPT. A lot of times when it comes to sports, it's inaccurate, but you gotta make it think a little bit. It's great for making sports investments. It gives you some good tips. You gotta fact check yourself, but it'll give you the stats you're looking for, and it'll make some funny pictures of your friends if you ask it to. So I enjoy ChatGPT.
Yes,
I don't have a problem with it. The people out there that think it's tracking you, well, no matter what you do, you're being tracked.
Everything's tracking you.
Yeah, it don't bother me.
Yeah, but what good does it do, Tom, if you're looking up a sports stat and then you got to go back and check the sports stat to see if it's accurate, because it screws up all the time?
Well, it does, but you got to be precise in what you want to know. If you just say, give me the Braves roster, well, it can give you a roster from 5 years ago. You gotta be precise. You gotta say, I want the Braves roster from February 12th, 2026, and it'll give it to you. It'll give it to you.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of ticked off right now about sports because these officials in the USA hockey game were screwing people over in the first period. The USA scored 2 goals, and they took away both of them. So some people out there have over 6.5 goals, and that is kind of it's kind of messing with a lot of people right now.
And by some people, you mean you people, right?
I'm not the only one here.
Tom, thanks for the call, man.
Good job.
God, Tom's mad at the Olympic officials for ruining his gambling. All right, last one. T Experience. What's up, man?
I'm on here, guys. I don't know if I come on here and gloat or if I should apologize.
Ooh, about?
So I came on a couple of times and I renamed somebody something that sounds like a bad rash, if you follow.
Oh. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
We have not heard from this person, so I'm kind of feeling bad. I just killed somebody's career, unknowingly. So
I don't think it was you. I think it was the fact that his team lost.
That too, but I'm going to take credit for
you
killing his
should.
career.
You
so.
should. You should take credit away from us. Is what you should do.
Yeah.
Anybody checked on him? Anybody heard from him?
No. Miami lost, and it's been MIA from Madcraft.
Wow. Sorry, bad dash.
Thanks, T Experience.
See you, man. All right, that was enough of the Tolo. That was a crazy ending to the Tolo takeover.
Started slow, ended fast.
It did. It was like bang, 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 bang. I've never in my life seen the phone lines 5 at one time, Diesel. And the entire time I was watching the clock thinking, okay, Brett Siegel's coming up. Brett Siegel, we got to go. We got to run the break. Brett Siegel, NBA, ClutchSports.com. We'll talk all things NBA with Brett Siegel next. NBA with Brett Siegel of ClutchPoints.com. You hear him weekly right here on the Fan Upstate and does a fantastic job covering the NBA. We'll tell you where you can follow his work here in a few minutes. Brett, I want to know, though, you cover obviously every team in every market. Where would you rank us? Because just to give you a little insight here, Charlotte, we're not used to the whole winning thing. With the Panthers, they've been pretty bad. We don't have a professional baseball team. And the Hornets, well, you know how they've been. From a fan perspective, do you feel like the Hornets are capable of winning their fan base over and maybe even bringing some new fans along with them? Because as somebody who's always been a fan of LeBron, I've never had a team, but I'm starting to find myself this year fall in love with the Charlotte Hornets.
Well, I think you just answered your own question right there. I think over the last 2 weeks, the Hornets have proven that they're a legit team in the Eastern Conference. They're going to be in the playoff conversation this year. And I think that outside of those top teams, like obviously the Pistons, the Celtics, the Knicks, maybe the Cavaliers as well, are in a class of their own. But you can put the Hornets in that next tier of teams. They're showing that they're playoff capable. They have young talents on the rise. And just watching them over the course of this win streak, the 9-game win streak that came to an end this past week, you can see how well these guys are playing together right now. They're fun. They can score out in transition. And that crowd, I mean, we saw it in that Pistons game. That crowd was really lively, and it seemed like a playoff game atmosphere. So I'm excited to see what they do the rest of the season. I think that the future is extremely bright for this organization and head coach Charles Lee. And I think that they're going to be in the playoffs. I don't think that they're going to lose in the play-in. I actually think that they are going to earn themselves an actual playoff spot this year.
So, Brett, what do you make of the additions? I know Kobe White and Malachi Branham are still out. Xavier Tillman played a minute in last night's game. They won the game, and that's great. But, when healthy, how much better do these three players make the Hornets?
I think that it makes a world of difference getting Kobe White, especially because he's on a cheaper contract. You can extend him in the offseason at your price instead of getting a guy that's already on a 2 or 3 year contract and figuring it out from there. They can sign Kobe White this offseason once he hits free agency, which is why I like that move of giving up Colin Sexton, because he did not have a long-term future with this franchise. Kobe White, he does, and he can either be a point guard moving forward, whether or not you trade LaMelo Ball in the offseason, which doesn't look as likely right now given their success, or he can play off the ball. And that's one of the reasons why this front office really targeted him, to be a guy that can do a little bit of everything in this backcourt, play on or off the ball, shoot threes, get to the hoop, create opportunities for others. So I really like that pickup of Kobe White. Every other move that they made were just moves around the edges to not only navigate some cap flexibility, but also continue to add on to their draft capital and to continue to build forward with their philosophy of going through the draft, staying young, and not leveraging all their assets right now for moves that don't make sense. So that's why I like what the Hornets did. I think that they're still in a very good position moving forward. And the reason for that is because of the young players that they have. LaMelo is still young, and he's having a really good season. And most importantly, he's staying healthy. And then obviously Con Kneppel, Brandon Miller, those are the two kind of pinnacles of the franchise moving forward. And we'll see what the Hornets do the rest of the season, because this is a very loaded draft coming up. And just because they're not going to be in the top 5 or top 6 does not mean that they won't be able to still find a talented player.
Brett, playing off of Diesel's question there, I mean, you talked about the free agency and the draft or the trades that they did, and I agree with you. I think they made some good trades. Where do you think their philosophy is, though? I mean, they're starting to be competitive. You said it. They're on the playoff bubble right now, 2.5 games out of 8th place, I believe, last time I looked. Do you feel like this is a team that goes into the offseason thinking, hey, we've got an opportunity to get a free agency? Or do you think their thought process of how they want to build this team is just from the draft and a more organic approach?
I think it's more of the latter. And the reason I say that is especially because free agency over the years has declined, where we're seeing a lot more teams make moves at the trade deadline and set themselves up for the summer then, rather than signing guys in free agency to max deals. It's really just a time period where teams are adding secondary talents, contending teams are using their mid-level exception. And I think that we're going to see the Hornets be a little bit aggressive on that front. If there's a talent that makes sense to them, maybe they'll look to use the mid-level exception or go out and leverage guys. Maybe it's a Miles Bridges, maybe it's a Josh Green. But I would kind of err more caution on that side, simply because Kobe White is going to be a free agent. They're going to look to bring him back. They wouldn't have made that trade unless they wanted Kobe White being a part of their future moving forward. So they're going to sign Kobe White to a contract. You're probably looking anywhere from that $15 to $20 million range right there. And then you're also going to have Brandon Miller, who's going to be extension eligible coming up, and you're going to have to look to give him something north of $30 million right there. So that's kind of where they lie right now. That they're going to balance their cap sheet. They're going to continue to push forward with this young talent. And like I mentioned, they have, I believe it's 2 draft picks potentially in the top 20 right now. So that could pay dividends for the Hornets' future by getting 2 really high-level talents right there.
Talking to Brett Siegel of ClutchPoints.com. You know, for years, Brett, the NBA has been at the forefront for driving player participation and eligibility rules, from, you know, allowing high school players for a while to now needing to play X number of college years before you can come in as what is the Charles Bediako scenario and all these other players that have left NBA rosters or professional rosters of some kind going back to college? What does that look like from the NBA's side of things? And, you know, do you feel like at some point a ruling has to come down from Adam Silver to manage this a little better?
Well, I don't really think the NBA wants to get involved with all that mess because it's up to the court system with college right now. And I mean, one of the examples, James Najee, he was drafted into the NBA, I believe was by the Charlotte Hornets, and the Knicks own his rights. And he went back to college and is playing for Baylor. It doesn't make any sense to me. If you're a professional athlete, you should have no right going back to college. I don't really understand this whole landscape of NIL. It was made that way guys could profit from having their jerseys sold in the college bookstore. So if a Heisman candidate or the National Player of the Year, he could make money from having his jersey sold. The Reggie Bush situation where he got paid for his autograph. You wouldn't have any of that anymore. Now it's turned into basically just another professional league where these guys are getting paid by the universities. They're getting paid by donors, and it's just whichever university can cough up the most money, they're going to be able to get the best guys in free agency. So I think from that vantage point, there's a lot that you can talk about from the college side, but from the NBA standpoint, they're staying out of it. And it's just, they're going forward with what it has been, where guys have to be 1 year removed from high school to be eligible for the draft. Same thing for international guys. They have to be, I believe it's 18 years or older, and they have to submit their name into a pool, have it approved and all that. But really from the NBA standpoint, it's nothing that they're going to look to get involved in there.
Brett, one more Hornet question for you. When you look at the top of the Eastern Conference, you watch a lot more Eastern Conference and Hornets basketball than I do. What do you think lacks? What do you think separates the Hornets from where they are now to, let's say, the top contenders in the Eastern Conference?
I think it's just still that growth phase, because Brandon Miller, he's a guy that they drafted very high, and he had some injuries last season. He wasn't able to get that full experience, that full development in his second season. And so now we're seeing that progression from Brandon Miller. We're seeing him rise to the type of all-star level talent he can be in Charlotte. Con Knipple, he's still a rookie. He's halfway through his rookie season, and he looks like the potential rookie of the year. So it's just a matter of getting these guys reps, allowing them to grow as a unit. And obviously you don't have an all-star talent that you look to on this roster right now compared to other teams, whereas the Knicks, you can immediately point to MVP candidates like Jalen Brunson, and obviously OG Anunoby and Towns are all-star-like talents. The Detroit Pistons have an MVP candidate in Cade Cunningham. The Boston Celtics, Jaylen Brown, is a Finals MVP. So that's where the difference lies. Those three teams have solidified all-star talents, have solidified MVPs. That's kind of that next step for the Hornets. Who will rise to the occasion to be an all-star level talent next season? Who will rise to maybe be in that Eastern Conference MVP conversation? So right now you're still on the climb up the mountain, and that's the best analogy I can give for the Hornets. It just takes time. Even though LaMelo has been there and has been an all-star before, he needs other guys to step up around him. And for the first time in several years, we're finally seeing that in Charlotte.
You know, Brett, as I've wanted to watch the Charlotte Hornets over the last 9, 10, 11 games be really good and resurge, I haven't been able to because it's buried behind a paywall. Sometimes it's a paywall that I've already paid for, but then it's blacked out in my local area because I haven't paid for an additional paywall to be overcome. I saw something earlier today that 50% of particularly young sports fans have pirated NBA games because for whatever reason, Adam Silver has decided to make it so hard to watch their product. Are they aware of this? And, you know, why haven't they done anything to bring the barriers down? The NFL put all their games on major networks, the NBA, the NHL, MLS. They want to bury it behind paywalls. Why is this the strategy that the NBA is taking?
Yeah, I think that that's certainly something on their minds. I know that Adam Silver has addressed those questions before in his Q&A with reporters at big events, whether it's been Summer League, NBA Finals, whatever. But he's talked about the local markets really having control over that. And so they're going to continue to look into it, see if there's anything to do. But as far as these licensing agreements go, with like NBC and their Peacock deals and Amazon, that's just kind of what it is with the NBA. They struck those deals. It's a huge, massive amount of money that those organizations, those companies paid to be able to broadcast the games. And that's just kind of how it is right now. But the local market affiliates and all that stuff, the NBA is aware of it, and they're constantly talking with those different organizations about how to make the games more accessible.
All right, Brett, I feel like I'm going to be talking to my therapist. I don't have a therapist, but maybe I need one. In this next question, I'm going to ask you, tell me if I'm right, wrong, somewhere in between. Where do you land? I've been a LeBron fan my entire life, and you know, because he's on the Lakers, I pull for the Lakers to be successful. However, and again, I'm no expert. I don't think this is a championship team. I also think I'm starting to realize that in order for them to be a championship team, as good as LeBron still is, I don't know that it's with LeBron just because of what he's eating up and what happens after this year in terms of if he, you know, takes a pay cut or how they restructure his contract or if he comes back to basketball at all. Where do you stand on that? I just don't feel like right now, even with Luka and LeBron, I don't feel like they're a championship team. Obviously, getting Austin Reeves back's big, but am I off on that in your mind?
I'll answer it like this. Could I see the Lakers making it out of the West and getting to the NBA Finals? I could. But I will also say that the Western Conference, there's about 8 teams you could say that about right now. And there's so much star power there. I think it's just really going to depend on which teams can stay healthy. Because you look at the Thunder, they have injuries right now with Jalen Williams and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They're not a championship contending team if those guys are out. Sure. You can say the same thing about the Spurs with Wembanyama, the same thing with the Nuggets with Jokic's health and some of the other injuries that they've been dealing with, the Aaron Gordon, Cam Johnson. All those teams need those guys in order to be a championship contender. And so from the Lakers standpoint, if they're one of 4 teams in the West that are fully healthy entering the playoffs, maybe there is a path for them to make a little bit of a run. But at full strength and looking at the Lakers, I think where they are in the standings right now is pretty reflective of how we view them across the league. Of being 6th in the Western Conference, you wouldn't really think that they are a championship contender in that spot. And I think that that's fair to say. As far as LeBron's future, it does seem like that this won't be his last season. Everybody I talk to still thinks that he has at least one more year left. And the general consensus is that he's just going to go back to Cleveland and play it out from there, have a farewell tour with the Cavs, go full circle, and contend in the Eastern Conference, which is much easier to do than the West, to try to give it one more go for a championship.
Brett, do you believe that the majority of the players still want to be a part of the All-Star game? You know, you hear some about stories about some of them not playing real hard or, you know, just kind of taking plays off. From the player perspective, is it still worth being a part of?
I think so. I mean, there's plenty of guys that are elated to be an all-star. And we saw, even though he was a replacement, what it meant to Brandon Ingram in that video with the Toronto Raptors, of them congratulating him and surrounding him in that huddle and throwing water on him. I mean, he was ecstatic to be an all-star. And much of the other guys in the all-star events feel the same way. It's just a select few that maybe it's just too old for them. Maybe they've been there too many times. And even though those guys are going to continue to be there, it's nothing new for them. It's not new energy like it was previously with those young guys. So I think as the league kind of flips over and more of these young guys take over, Cade Cunningham, Anthony Edwards, you'll see more of a level of excitement for the All-Star game. But I also have to point to the fact that it's changed so much over the years, where it's a new format every year. The players and fans don't even know what's going on sometimes. So I think that the NBA is just trying to maximize the potential of the All-Star game, get everybody engaged from fans and players alike, and we're going to continue to see these changes moving forward.
Hey, one more Lakers question. Could Bronny, I mean, he's been playing well lately. Could he shake off that nepotism stuff, that nepotism talk?
I mean, I don't see him really cracking the rotation in LA. I think that his role is pretty much what it is. He's on the bench, and a lot of people know why he's there with the Lakers through the draft. But that roster is pretty much what it is at this point. Unless there's major injuries, he's not going to be getting in the rotation for the rest of the season and obviously for the playoffs.
Brett, how do you like the to bring it back full circle, the Hornets to come out of the All-Star break? Do you think they have the right kind of makeup to continue this run and stay hot?
I do, and the reason I say that is because they're basically playing with house money at this point. Nobody thought that the Charlotte Hornets would be hovering around 500 at the All-Star break and go on a little bit of a run like they have. They've won 10 of their last 11 games, if I'm not mistaken. And so heading into the All-Star break with a lot of confidence, they know some of those teams that they're competing with are struggling right now and heading in a different direction, like the Bulls, the Hawks, the Heat, the Magic. So if those teams suddenly fall off, we could be looking at a scenario where the Hornets are maybe the 7th seed in the East in about 2-3 weeks. And if that's true, maybe all of a sudden it's not that crazy to think they could grab the 5 or 6 seed at that point. So I think that there's a lot of optimism in Charlotte. And as long as these guys stay healthy, they're going to continue fighting, and they have a lot to look forward to for the rest of the year.
Brett, always appreciate your time, man. Great stuff, and we will talk to you soon.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Brett Siegel, ClutchPoints.com. I hope so, man. I hope the Hornets can stick on that horse and keep riding that thing, man. I'm enjoying it. I watched them legally. Did you know what I said?
Well,
what I said?
50%. 50% of young NBA fans are streaming illegally.
That
because
includes
it's
me.
Easier, cheaper. I mean, it's a pain in the ass when they move it from network to streaming service to streaming service. I'm not going to buy 5 streaming services just to watch the Charlotte Hornets.
I have a
This
link.
is not going to happen.
I have a link on my computer, and I can just to the TV. So I
need to get that link.
Yeah, I can. No, I can give it to you. And the Tolos.
Link me to that link.
It's not a link. I don't know what link.
I don't know what you're
talking
about.
God, you just got to be fired. We're done. That's fun.
Cole, when we come back, we've talked so much about how sports gambling has negatively affected the sport. Well, I think there's a way that it's going to help the sport, and it's might be in the jerkest. It's not a word. Meanest, most spiteful way possible. We'll talk about that right after the break on the Fan Upstate. Cole, do you know who Nick Wright is? Fox
Yes.
analyst. I think he's pretty good, right? Most of the time.
I'm not a huge fan, but I mean, I see him on TikTok a lot.
I've seen a lot of his stuff. I agree with him more than I disagree with him, except on this, Cole, where he says that the NFL they have no choice but to hammer the New England Patriots for fudging their medical data on how severe Drake May's injury was for the Super Bowl. They need to hammer them. Hammer them how? See, that's the thing. He didn't really say how or why or how you would actually enforce anything like this. Look, we were all questioning how healthy Drake May's shoulder was.
Yeah.
And they scrubbed him from the injury report 2 days ahead of the Super Bowl, which would lend you to believe that he was perfectly healthy and capable of quarterbacking the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And Drake May said things like, "Oh, I'm full go in practice. I feel great. Everything is fine." Now, obviously, we all saw what happened in the Super Bowl. He threw for a bunch of yards, but he also made a lot of really terrible passes as well. Short passes, long passes, off, left or right.
Didn't look good.
Didn't look good in that game. And I guess they need Nick. Nick wants them to go back in time in a DeLorean and then put an X-ray or something on Drake May's shoulder to see if his shoulder is actually okay. It's a weird take, Cole, but with how much money there is in sports gambling, do you think that it will force coaches and players and team doctors to be more honest about really what players' medical conditions are?
If something comes of it, I think then the answer would be yes. I just don't think anything will come of it. He wants the Patriots punished.
Yeah, punished. How do you punish them?
Yeah, I just don't know. Again, I get it. But here's the deal, though, man. Like, this happens, and I understand where he's coming from, but the problem is this happens every week in the NFL. Like, this is players get hurt and they play through injuries.
Well, yeah, and how do we know that Drake May was bad in the Super Bowl? Because his shoulder was legitimately injured, contusion, bruising, whatever, right? Strains.
Yeah.
How do we know that's why he played badly? Maybe he just was off in this game. Maybe it's because they had 2 weeks between games.
And again, it goes back to, did that really change your opinion? We talked about it. I would have picked the Seahawks if Drake May were 100% healthy. If the offensive line couldn't block, the left side of the offensive line was, giving up guys left and right, like the Army out there, it wouldn't have mattered if Drake May was healthy. I mean, shoulder is one thing, but he had no protection. So, yeah, I mean.
Yeah. And how much of it was right? How much of it was how good the Seattle Seahawks defense was? A lot was how good the Seahawks defense was. And Drake May hadn't faced a whole lot of defenses like that, especially in the last couple of weeks.
That's a good off-season conversation. You can tell the off-season's here, though, from Nick Wright, right?
But I tell you, it's like that conversation around faking injuries in college football, how bad it got, right? And people would boo a player for going down. Like, you can't know from road double Z all the way up there in the upper deck if a guy actually injured himself or not. You don't have x-ray vision. You're not a doctor. And last I checked, doctors have to be like right there next to the guy to know what's going on. You can't really know. I mean, these coaches, they play around with the injury reports sometimes to throw the other team off, make them prep for things they don't need to, or vice versa. But you just can't know.
Does he want San Francisco to be punished if the towers, what are they called? The electric substations. Yeah. I mean, if they continue to cause injuries over the next few years, I mean, I think it's kind of a lame argument there. I just think in the NFL it happens. People play through injuries. Like, should they be punished? No. Did they bend the rule? I don't know if they bent the rules at all.
To me, this sounds like I lost money on gambling, and now I'm mad that I lost money on gambling, because turns out gambling, there's a risk of loss.
Yeah, and there is.
I don't want to risk money. I want to always win.
Yeah, I've been upset losing before too. So maybe that's
replay the game with the Chargers in it.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Diesel, yesterday you and I on the show, we went through and critiqued Crane and Cone's list of the toughest schedules. What we didn't do was rank them ourselves 1 through 10. So that list, you and I went through them. We said who we thought had the toughest schedules, right? How would we rank those schedules, though, when it comes to the most difficult schedules 1 through 10, according to you and I? We'll dive into it next. Now, Dewey, I know this is going to upset you. Now you can see us on the stream. We will not be on air Monday. You remember that, Diesel? No show Monday.
I did know that. Yeah,
it is a President's Day.
Woo!
And Odyssey says, you know what? Y'all get a not vacation. You get a.
I mean, I still have to work. I have to do the night show on 93.3 The Planet.
Oh yeah, so you don't get that off.
No,
unfortunately, you don't get that, but you do get this show off. So we will not. A programming note: we will not be on the air on these airwaves on Monday. Tomorrow we will, and next week we will. Also, want to remind you we do have some fun news coming up for March Madness, and it hadn't been sent to our inbox yet, so we can't talk about it yet, but we will very soon, and it will involve you Tolos, like in person. So a lot of fun stuff coming your way, and we are looking forward to it. Diesel, let's revisit the conversation. By the way, phone lines are open. Joy Law Firm text line open as well at 844-326-3663. Yesterday, you and I went through and gave our opinions on Crane and Cone's top 10 most difficult schedules in college football, right? We said yay, nay on a lot of these in terms of how difficult they actually are, but let's rank them. Let's rank them ourselves, and for the Tolos that didn't get a chance to get in on the conversation, feel free to at 844-FAN-PHONE, FANFONE. I want to know from you, and we can go back through these one at a time if need be. Do you have a clear-cut, most difficult schedule in college football of the 10 we went through, Diesel?
I do, and it was the team that they listed at number 10 on their schedule.
I can't figure that out.
And it's the Kentucky Wildcats. I've got their schedule pulled up right now.
So what is the reason for that? I wonder. What they go 10 for? What are we missing? Are we missing something? I'm looking at their schedule too. I'm thinking in my head, Diesel, why do you think Crane and Cone put them at 10?
That's a phenomenal question. Now, maybe they're really valuing that Texas-Ohio State matchup again. That's got to be my thought.
It's one game, though, you know?
True. And I look at, I don't know what their roster is going to look like, but even in their quote-unquote off week, their gimme week, i.e. the Youngstown State game, they got to play a team that went 8-5 last year.
That would be the most Kentucky thing ever.
To lose to Youngstown. My point is they're not a pushover FCS team. We don't know. I don't know anything about this 2026 Youngstown State football roster.
You should know the Penguins left and right.
And obviously you can't know with the transfer portal what they're going to look like. But all we can go off of is the fool's gold of what they were last year. And they were a solid enough FCS football team.
Yeah. By the way,
it's not like they're playing McNeese.
If they were to lose to Youngstown State, they should just go ahead and cancel it. The season.
Actually put a Kroger in Kroger Field?
Yeah.
Just turn it into a grocery store?
We're done. We'll see y'all next year. We're going to focus on basketball and NIL. So here's what I don't understand. Going back to the conversation that Crane and Co. God, I can't get that.
It's going to take a while.
It's
because it's too similar.
It's very similar.
If they had changed it to something.
Cone.
Yeah.
Cone. All right, I got it now. To go back to the reasoning, I can't figure it out with 10. And they had David Pollack on, formerly of ESPN, and they went through these, and it's good content. When I look at Kentucky's schedule, Tolos, let us know if you agree or disagree. You mentioned Youngstown State. After that, there's no days off. You got Alabama. Then you're at Texas A&M. You host South Alabama. You go to South Carolina, and that's not an easy game. Going to Columbia for Kentucky. We're talking about Kentucky here.
These are essentially two similar teams now.
And Carolina's kind of had their number lately. I know for many years it was Kentucky who had Carolina's number, but hey, look lately.
Yeah.
Shane Beamer's been winning that matchup.
And he's got Lenore Sellers back.
Yep. You would think right now that the Gamecocks would be favored in that matchup against Kentucky. You would think. And then they host LSU. Then they're at Oklahoma. Then they host Vandy. So, let's say Vandy's not any good. And that's a big if because Vandy's going to be.
We're having a debate whether or not Vandy's going to be any good
for them to maybe get their. You're looking at it. What, second win? Is that? Honestly, right now for Kentucky in 2026, They're 1-0. But Diesel, they're not okay. I did miss South Alabama. My apologies. So they're 2-0 there, or not 2-0. 2 wins.
They'll be 2 and
2 and 2.
2. Yeah, 2 and 2 going to the South Carolina game.
2 and 3, I say.
Yeah.
2 and 4 after LSU. 2 and 5 at Oklahoma. And then Vandy maybe is their 3rd win. But here's the deal, though. Vandy's not a gimme. I mean, this is Kentucky we're talking about.
Jared Curtis, 5-star, flip from Georgia to Vandy.
I think Vandy's going to be
playing
pretty good.
For Vandy next year.
I don't know if they'll be as good, but that's my thing. Like, let's say they lose that one. Okay, now you're talking about what? 2 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2 and 6.
Yep.
And then you get a bye, and then you're at Tennessee 2 and 7, Florida 2 and 8. You're going to Mizzou 2 and 8.
Yeah.
And I mean, does a 2 and 8? I mean, a 2 and 8.
But it's an Eli Drinkwitz led team, and that's got to count for something.
I know you would probably take Mizzou, right?
I'd take Mizzou.
That's what I'm saying.
On the road.
That's what I'm saying. So again, Crane and Cole, and then they finish out with Louisville, and Louisville's gonna be good. Jeff Brom does a great job.
So it's 2 and 9, 2 and 10.
They could be 2 and 10. I think best case scenario for Kentucky's 3 and 9. I really do. I think 3 and 9 is their best coach or their best opportunity. Here's what's interesting about that. We didn't talk about this yesterday. Didn't Mark Stoops leave? Mark Stoops now replaced by Will Stein?
Yeah.
So Will Stein in his first year. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what expectations are at Kentucky football, just to be quite frank. And Stoops was there for what seemed like forever. And again, I'm not bashing on Will Stein, right? He played the game. Let's see. He was the quarterback's coach at Louisville. He's been at a couple different high schools. Young guy. He's a young guy. From the state of Kentucky, by the way. But there's as much, I mean, Diesel, like if you Google or Chat GPT Will Stein, there's as much unknown about this guy as any other coach. And does that make you feel good?
Yeah, first-year head coaches don't typically come into the SEC and find a tremendous amount of success.
No. And again, I don't know what kind of expectations and what realistic expectations are at Kentucky.
I think Will's only expectation is for his checks to cash.
Yeah. You might be right on that.
Yeah.
So you and I both going what? Kentucky at number 1? Are we doing the Mongolian flip here? Are we flipping from 10?
I've never heard of the Mongolian
flip.
yeah.
Yeah, we're flipping. I mean, we are at about face.
So I've got my 1 through 10, and we can adjust these together if you want to have a little consensus as a show. I'm going to mark down what we think their ceiling is.
Ooh.
Or projected win-loss, right?
By the way, Mongolian flip's a golf term. I thought you'd heard of it.
Never heard of the term before.
Sorry. AI, ChatGPT.
I'll ask real quick. Yeah. It'll probably say, sorry, we can't ask anything that sounds racially sensitive like that.
God, that's terrible.
My number 2.
Yeah.
And let's see if you agree. And again, we can move these around a little bit. I've got Texas as my number 2. Because Texas will have Texas State, Ohio State at home, UTSA at home, on the road at Tennessee, Oklahoma in a neutral site, but that's in Dallas, Florida, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. How many home games do they have? Good Lord. Missouri on the road, LSU on the road, Arkansas at home, A&M on the road.
And you got that as 2?
I've got that as 2.
Crane and Cone had that as Texas. They had 3. So not far off.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm willing if we think, all right, this one's tougher than that one, we can move them around. But
no, I like that. I'm looking at the others.
Ohio State's going to be really good.
Ohio State has that one block. And we talked about it yesterday. Flipping back to Ohio State schedule, because they had Crane and Cone had Ohio State 1, Texas 3. I just think Texas is more difficult because of the conference they're in.
You know, a big question mark in this is how good is Ole Miss going to be under Pete Golding?
It's a big question mark.
I know they're bringing back a lot of guys, but that doesn't mean anything if Pete Golding can't coach worth a damn.
And a lot of these teams we're talking about are playing Ole Miss. So, I mean, of course, like if Ole Miss just craps to bed next year, then these schedules, again, hey, we're predicting these schedules like we were predicting who's going to be good last year. in this portal era, we just really don't know. We really don't know.
And I'm looking at these as like, how many quote unquote weeks off do I think they're going to have? Like how many games do I think they'll be far and away favored in? For Texas, I got them favored over Texas State, over UTSA, over Ole Miss. I've got them favored over Mississippi State, and I've got them favored over Missouri.
Yeah.
Oh, and I got them favored over Arkansas. So I'd have them favored in 7 games. Maybe take away Ole Miss as saying far and away favored in. So I'd almost say that they have quote unquote 6 weeks off in this season. 6 weeks where it's not, you're under the gun.
Gauntlet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy? We didn't even mention this yesterday, and I kind of joked about it. I made fun of it. I made light of it. But on this top 10, you know who wasn't on there? South Carolina. South Carolina.
That's true.
I think South Carolina had the most difficult 5-game stretch in college football last year than any other team. I mean, I'm serious. That 5-game gauntlet they had in 2025, good luck finding a gauntlet and they lost all 5 of those, by the way, right?
And you know what I like about this Texas schedule?
Yeah.
Is they don't play back-to-back ranked teams all season long.
That's big. That's big.
It's Ohio State, and they got UTSA, then Tennessee.
So
then they got a bye week, then Oklahoma. Then they got Florida. We don't know what they're going to be yet. Then they got Ole Miss.
Okay.
Then they got Mississippi State, Missouri. Then they got LSU. Then they got Arkansas. Then Texas A&M.
I can agree with you. So we're both going Kentucky. We're going Texas. Where? Where'd you say 3?
I got Texas right now at number 2. But
I'm fine with that.
But I might be willing to move them down just because of that fact that it's not back to back.
Well, let's see then. Okay, let's see if we move them down. Who would be 3? Because look, Ohio State's Crane and Cone has Ohio State as 1. Let's decide right now. Is Ohio State top 3 in terms of most difficult schedule? A lot of people will say off the cuff, no, because they're what? They're not in the SEC, right?
Ball State, at Texas, Kent State, Illinois, Iowa, Maryland, Indiana, bye week, USC, Oregon, Northwestern, Nebraska, Michigan. I just don't see that as that hard of a schedule.
I don't see it as the most.
Because we don't know what
is USC going to be.
Right. We don't know what Illinois is going to be again this year. We don't know what Iowa is going to be this year. We don't know what Indiana is going to be this year. I think there's a lot of question marks that say knock them down from like 8-level hardness opponents to like a 6 or a 7.
Serious question here, all kidding aside. I'm looking at their schedule on FBSschedules.com. And it says at USC. And Diesel, right before USC, there's a 1 and a 3. Can you explain to me 13? You're telling me Southern Cal is the 13th best like this? We've got to I am so last year we learned our lesson. This year we've got to implement it.
Where are they even getting these numbers? That's what I'm
these numbers and rankings, we have got to abolish this thing. I'm not kidding, man. We've got to abolish it. This preseason, I mean, you're not going to convince me Southern Cal, and maybe I eat crow and they're really good. What has Riley proved to us?
Nothing.
They hadn't been anything. He hadn't done anything since he's been there. He beat LSU 1 time. So again, going back to Ohio State's schedule, Indiana without Fournette,
right?
There's just so much unknown.
That's why I knocked those teams down just a little bit. Just enough.
Okay.
I think Michigan, no matter what, is going to be a really, really tough win. Oregon is going to be a really, really tough win.
Yeah.
Texas is going to be a really, really tough win.
Yeah.
But I think they'll be favored in what is that, 9 of those other games?
What do you? So I'm not comfortable with Ohio State being top 3.
No,
I'm top 5's. That's fine.
I got
3.
I got them 5.
Okay, that's good.
Middle of the pack.
I'm with you there. Let's agree on that. So we agree if we're doing a combined list here. We both agree Kentucky's 1. We go Texas 2?
I went Texas 2, but again, I'm willing to move it.
Well, let's see. Let's see if anything can knock Texas off.
Oklahoma's schedule harder?
They have Crane and Cone has Arkansas at 2. Let's look at Arkansas. Can Arkansas knock off Texas? Let's answer that. Arkansas 2026. Right now we have Texas at 2.
Mm-hmm.
Arkansas, they
at Utah.
Yeah.
Georgia.
That's tough.
At A&M.
And Utah's no gimme here for
right.
Arkansas.
Nice
probably
lose a cool stadium. I'd love to go to a game there.
They'll probably lose that game. But North Alabama first.
Oh, yeah, well,
don't forget about
Lions,
them.
Yeah. Let's see.
Tulsa.
Tennessee. Oh, yeah, Tulsa. Sorry, I'm skipping over. I'm not really focused on the
That's still
FCS
Tulsa
and the
disrespect.
G5s. So, yeah.
Tulsa disrespect. A&M and then A&M. So,
but here they got back-to-back with Utah and Georgia.
That's tough.
They got Tulsa, then they got back-to-back at A&M hosting Tennessee and at Vandy, though we don't know what Vandy's going to be this year, so knock them down a peg. And then they close out the season with back-to-back at Texas and LSU. I mean, and in the middle of there, they just so happen to have at Auburn and South Carolina coming to town. Is Oklahoma tougher than Texas? Arkansas.
That's a good question.
I think it's tough because they just get back-to-back weeks against ranked teams multiple times.
You're right. A&M and Tennessee back-to-back. Diesel, that's brutal.
Is that harder than Ohio State? I'd say yeah.
I would rather have one with Ohio State than at A&M and Tennessee. I mean, those are two good. I know we're not going to have enough time for the whole 10, so let's just see if we can nail the top 3. And then, hey, look, the end of the season, though. Listen to this. At Auburn, after the bye, Mizzou, Diesel, at Auburn, South Carolina, Texas, and LSU. That's a pretty tough stretch to land that plane, isn't it? I just don't know. That's a tough schedule to me. That's tough.
They've got Florida at number 8 on this thing, but Florida starts with FAU and Campbell. Get out of here. They'll be 2-0, easy, no problem.
No shot.
On the road at Auburn. We don't know what their new head coach, don't know what they're going to be. Ole Miss at home, new head coach, don't really know what they're going to be.
Saying, man.
Florida's got a new head coach too.
And
but
Kentucky
I do like Summerall a lot.
Everybody feels like everybody has new coaches.
I think there's a chance that Florida could be 3-2 through the first 5 weeks of the season,
and that's why,
maybe 4-1.
I'm not saying don't have these strong opinions come postseason, but we are so into the unknown world with all these new coaches, all these new players. Phil Steele, I would love to ask Phil Steele, how do you actually, analyze these teams? What are you getting? How do you know? I mean, what are you going off of? New coaches, new rosters?
It's got to be a spreadsheet of just you take away the continuity element and it's just, here's a sum of the parts. Simple math.
But the problem with that is that doesn't equate to predictions being right.
Right.
That's, you see what I'm saying?
You might have to take that the most correct magazine off the front page. Hey, Cole, when we come back, let's hear more from John Whittle of the Big Spur, talking a lot of South Carolina baseball, basketball. Just how safe is Lamont Paris, and what kind of expectations are set for the 2026 South Carolina Yardcocks baseball team? That's next.